Hey muscle car fanatics, welcome back to the channel where horsepower, history, and heart all come together. Today we're taking you deep into one of the most legendary muscle car face-offs of all time. The 1971 Oldsmobile 442W30 versus the 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1. These weren't just fast cars. They were rolling statements of power, defiance, and pure American engineering. Born in the twilight of the muscle car era, these two GM beasts went out swinging, armed with big blocks, monstrous torque, and personalities as different as night and day. So buckle up as we explore every inch of what makes these two titans tick. From engine specs and quarter-mile runs to ride comfort, collector value, and beyond. Let's hit the gas. To truly appreciate these machines, we have to rewind the clock to the early 70s. It was a time of change. Muscle cars were under siege, crippled by looming emissions regulations, rising gas prices, and punishing insurance. Premiums. The muscle car golden age was fading fast, but not before Oldsmobile and Buick threw down two of the fiercest street fighters of the era. The 442W30 and the GS 455 weren't just cars. They were a last stand, a bold, roaring farewell to unfiltered American power. Let's start with the 1971 Oldsmobile 442W30, arguably the most aggressive car Oldsmobile ever made. This wasn't just a 442. The W30 package took it to another level. Under the hood, a ferocious 455 cubic inch V8, factory rated at 350 gross horsepower, and a tire shredding 500 lb-ft of torque. Yes, those are gross numbers, the kind measured before emissions and accessories. In modern terms, it still translates to some serious punch. This car featured a performance camshaft, unique aluminum intake, functional cold air induction via twin scoops on the ram air hood, and special decode cylinder heads. It had one job: dominate the drag strip. Quarter-mile times hovered around the mid to low 13s with the right driver and setup. That's Corvette territory back in the day. The styling? Classic muscle. Stripes, flared fenders, dual exhausts, and a front end that looked like it wanted to fight. This car wasn't subtle. It was unapologetically in your face. Now, meet the 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1. A car that did things a little differently. While Oldsmobile chased raw muscle, Buick aimed to blend luxury and torque. Under the GS's hood was the legendary 455 Stage 1 engine. By 1972, new SAE net ratings had kicked in, so this monster was rated at 260 horsepower. But that didn't tell the whole story. With 380 lb-ft of torque available low in the rev range, this thing pulled hard from idle, making it deceptively quick in the real world. The Stage 1 package included high-lift camshafts, larger valves, and revised carburetor tuning. It wasn't built to scream, it was built to surge. Think of it as a muscle car wearing a tailored suit. From the outside, it was clean and classy. Sleek lines, hidden headlights, and minimal badging. But under the skin, it could hold its own against almost anything Detroit had to offer. So how did these two heavyweights stack up? The Olds 442W30 was the better drag car, no question. It had more immediate horsepower, a more aggressive cam, and its gearing favored quick launches. On the street or at the track, it was brute force first, questions later. But the Buick GS 455 Stage 1, that was the sleeper. It was quieter, smoother, and surprisingly refined. Yet in road races or off-the-line bursts, it was a serious threat. The GS's low-end torque made it one of the best stoplight warriors of its day. Ride quality? The Buick wins. It had a more comfortable suspension setup, better interior materials, and felt more polished. The Olds, on the other hand, was louder, stiffer, and rougher around the edges. So it comes down to this. Do you want your muscle car loud and wild or smooth and stealthy? Today, both cars are sought after collector items, but they appeal to different kinds of enthusiasts. The 442W30 has higher visibility and commands slightly higher prices at auction, especially in rare color combos or with 4-speeds. It's a showstopper with a reputation for serious performance. The Buick GS 455 Stage 1, meanwhile, is a sleeper hit among collectors. Fewer were made, Even fewer survived. And those who've driven one will tell you it's one of the most underrated muscle cars of the era. So who wins? That depends on what you're after. If you want an all-out, no-compromise piece of American muscle, something raw, aggressive, and iconic, the Oldsmobile 442 W30 is your car. But if you want comfort with your carnage, torquey with your tuxedo, and muscle that doesn't scream for attention, the Buick GS 455 Stage 1 might just surprise you. Two legends, two philosophies, one golden era. Which one would you rather have in your garage? The rough and ready Oldsmobile 442 W30 or the smooth but deadly Buick GS 455 Stage 1? Let us know your pick in the comments below. And if you love this deep dive into muscle car history, smash that like button, subscribe for more content like this, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a showdown. Until next time, keep it loud, keep it classic.
Before the SUV boom, before crossovers took over every driveway, and before ruggedness was just another marketing word, there was the real deal. Today, we're diving deep into one of the coolest hidden gems from Mopar's past, the 1966 Dodge D100 Town Wagon. It's not flashy, it's not fast, but it's tough, charming, and a legit slice of automotive history. A survivor from a time when trucks were tools, not toys. This one's up for grabs on Bring a Trailer, and trust us, it's not just another auction listing. So, grab your favorite road trip playlist, kick back, and let's hit the highway back in time, to a moment when the SUV was just being born. Let's rewind the clock to a time before SUVs ruled the road. Back to when utility was about function, not fashion. Before touchscreens, before heated cup holders, before the word crossover became part of daily life, there were vehicles like the Dodge Town Wagon. Specifically, this rugged, honest-to-goodness 1966 Dodge D100 Town Wagon, currently turning heads on Bring a Trailer. At a glance, it might just look like an old van or a funky vintage truck. But look a little deeper, and you'll see something more important. This is a missing link in the evolution of the American SUV. Dodge's answer to the International Travelall and the Chevy Suburban, the Town Wagon, was Mopar's early attempt to blend passenger comfort with real off-road, go-anywhere toughness. And this particular one? It's not some over-restored museum piece. It's survivor spec, beautifully worn in, and running the same 225 cubic inch slant 6 engine it left the factory with. Still wearing factory steel wheels and Dodge logo hubcaps, it's a snapshot from a different automotive era. And the best part? It still works like it was meant to. Simple, durable, unpretentious. Now, before we dive into the nuts and bolts, let's talk about the vibe. If you've ever driven a modern Dodge Durango, you know it's got that old-school swagger. But the Durango is now over a decade old in its current form and definitely showing some gray hairs. If you're after something even older school, with a little more dirt under its fingernails and a lot more soul, the Town Wagon is the rig for you. From the outside, the 1966 D100 Town Wagon almost looks like it rolled out of the 1950s. And that's not by accident. Dodge didn't rush to modernize its body styles in this era. They built things to last, and if a design worked, they stuck with it. So you get that upright, boxy, hard-edged silhouette. It's unapologetically trucky, big, bold, and built for real roads, especially the rough ones. This Town Wagon shares its bones with Dodge's panel vans of the era, but it was designed for people, not plumbing tools. It came fitted with 2 full rows of bench seating and still left enough room behind them to swallow up a family's worth of camping gear, fishing rods, suitcases, or surfboards. Throw in a full-size spare tucked inside, and it's basically a mobile base camp. Under the hood, that slant 6 might not sound like much by today's numbers. 140 horsepower and 215 pound-feet of torque. back when those were gross numbers, not the net ratings we use today. But this engine has a rep. It's legendary for its reliability, known to run for hundreds of thousands of miles with little more than basic maintenance. It's not fast, but it's tough, and it'll cruise all day long without complaint. Paired with a 3 on the tree. Manual transmission. It's an engaging drive, simple, mechanical, analog. You actually feel what the vehicle's doing, from the clutch to the shifter to the way it leans into corners. It's the opposite of numb. You don't just pilot the town wagon, you drive it. Now, let's talk mechanicals. This town wagon isn't untouched, but it's been lovingly maintained. The carburetor's been rebuilt. The brakes and clutch? Recently serviced. Some seals replaced. It's not restored to show quality, but it's ready for the real world. That sweet spot between preservation and usability. Think about it. In the 1960s, most American families drove full-size sedans or wagons. The roads were getting better, thanks to the expanding interstate system. But there was still plenty of backwoods and rough-cut forestry roads that could break a regular car in half. If your vacation spot required climbing a muddy trail or crossing a creek, a town wagon was what you needed. Tough enough to take a beating, big enough to carry everything you own, and comfortable enough for the whole family. And there's something else. It's cool. Not in a loud, flashy, look-at-me way, but in a cool because it doesn't care kind of way. Picture it, surfboards on top, the radio playing the Beach Boys, and the open road ahead. It might not be a classic Woody wagon, but it nails the same, surf van energy. Which brings us to a bit of nostalgia. If you've been feeling sentimental about Brian Wilson and the golden age of California sound, this town wagon hits the right notes. It's not about speed or power. It's about freedom, about loading up your gear, grabbing your friends, and heading off-grid. Forget the latest Durango Special Edition with Hemi badges and blacked-out trim. That's cool in its own way, sure. But if you want the original spirit, the true Mopar adventurer, you wind the clock back to something like this. There's something deeply satisfying about that simplicity. No screens, no sensors, no fuss. Just metal, rubber, gears, and torque. You can roll the windows down and actually feel the wind. You can park it at a trailhead and not worry about door dings. You can camp out of it, wrench on it, or just cruise into town and turn heads with every mile. And let's not forget how rare these are. Dodge didn't build a ton of town wagons, and fewer still have survived in such original condition. Most have been chopped, swapped, or left to rot. This one stands apart, not just for what it is, but for how honestly it's made it to 2024. With vintage trucks and classic SUVs climbing steadily in value, a clean original example like this is more than just a cool ride. It's an investment. But unlike a Garage Queen muscle car, the town wagon wants to be used. It begs for dirt roads, fishing trips, surf runs, and family getaways. It's not just a piece of history, it's a passport to making your own. So if you're into timeless utility, if you love vehicles with real stories and real scars, this 1966 Dodge Town Wagon might just be the coolest auction find of the year. It's rugged, it's rare, it's real. And best of all, it's ready for whatever adventure comes next. Get ready to turn the key, shift into gear, and drive back into a time when trucks were trucks and utility meant more than USB ports. The Dodge Town Wagon isn't just a vehicle, it's a vibe, and that vibe, still as strong as ever. So there you have it, the Dodge Town Wagon. It's not just a classic truck, it's a time capsule. A sun-faded, steel-bodied reminder of a simpler, tougher kind of utility vehicle. While today's SUVs try to be everything at once, this old Dodge just does one thing, and it does it right. Whether you're heading into the woods, chasing waves, at the coast, or just turning heads at your local cars and coffee, this town wagon is ready to roll. If you love vehicles with soul, with scars, with stories, then maybe it's time to stop scrolling and start bidding. And hey, if you enjoyed this trip back in time, give us a like. Drop your favorite vintage SUV in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dive classics, like this one. Until next time, keep it vintage, keep it moving.
Start your engines, America, because the Hemi is officially back and Ram is roaring back into NASCAR with a vengeance. After more than a decade-long absence, Ram Trucks is making a bold and thunderous return to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series in 2026. But make no mistake, this isn't just a nostalgic comeback. This is a carefully calculated move, executed with spectacle, strategy, and unmistakable swagger. It's not just about racing, it's about rebuilding identity, reconnecting with loyal fans, and reigniting American performance pride. The return of the Hemi and a new era of Ram racing. In case you missed it, Ram's iconic 5.7-liter Hemi V8 is making a triumphant return in the 2026 Ram 1500 after a short hiatus when Ram experimented with the more fuel-efficient and powerful twin-turbo 3.0-liter Hurricane inline-six. While the Hurricane was impressive in its own right, the call for the raw grunt and growl of a naturally aspirated V8 never died down. Customers wanted the Hemi back, and Ram listened. For Ram brand CEO Tim Kuniskis, the logic was simple. If the Hemi is back, we might as well get back to racing, back to NASCAR. So now, in a full-circle moment of horsepower history, Ram will re-enter the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series after being off the grid for 13 years, with plans to compete in the 2026 season. A truck, a vision, and a donut-spinning entrance. At a recent NASCAR event at Michigan International Speedway, Ram didn't just announce its return. It announced it with style. The unveiling included a bold Ram 1500 concept race truck, complete with aggressive aero, a fire-breathing V8 powertrain, and one wild visual flourish, a donut-spinning trailer. That's right. In perhaps the most Ram way imaginable, the concept truck will be towed into the pre-race festivities on a custom-built round trailer that allows it to spin smoky donuts while being hauled down the straight by a Ram 5500. If you were looking for subtlety, look elsewhere. This is Ram's Ram-demption campaign, and it's coming in hot. The concept truck was built by Ram's in-house design team and borrows aggressive styling cues from the 1500 sport truck lineup, Warlock, Rebel, and RHO. But make no mistake, this beast is designed for racing, with massive airflow channels to cool an engine that will be pushed to 9,000 RPM lap after lap, wrapped in a striking black and red livery, emblazoned with Mopar's Direct Connection branding and the new rebellious Hemi logo, a ram's head superimposed over an engine block. It's a rolling symbol of performance protest. Rams Racing. Strategy. Performance with purpose. While Ram is still finalizing its race team structure, Kuniskis made it clear that the return isn't just a PR stunt. The brand intends to be competitive, targeting at least 4 trucks on the grid. Whether they'll be supported by one mega team or a group of affiliate teams is still undecided, but the intent is clear. Ram is here to win, not just make noise. For more than a decade, customers and our dealer network asked about getting back into NASCAR, Kuniskis said. The desire was always there, but we didn't have a plan that delivered the last tenth, and following just didn't fit our DNA. Now, we have a solid plan that will set us apart from the field. NASCAR and trucks, a match made in American motorsports. Let's talk numbers. NASCAR remains one of America's most beloved motorsports, with a loyal fan base of over 20 million viewers. And guess what? Over 40% of those fans own a pickup truck. Ram is betting big that by tapping into NASCAR's culture, they can turn passionate fans into passionate customers. That means building brand loyalty through racing, performance, and marketing spectacle. That also means putting the Ram logo where the fans are, on the track, in the infield, and across social feeds. The brand's new campaign, Ram-demption, isn't just a clever tagline. It's a complete reintroduction of Ram's racing spirit, from mechanical Hemi bull rides to fan lounges and t-shirt giveaways. Ram is creating an immersive racing culture that bridges the gap between the track and the street. Announcements in 18 months. building momentum. Ram isn't easing into this return. Over the next 18 months, the brand plans to roll out 25 product and product-related announcements, with the first being the return of the Hemi and the second being the NASCAR comeback. These reveals are expected to include everything from new racing partnerships and race-ready technologies to potential production spin-offs inspired by the concept truck. Ram is making it clear, this isn't a one-off. It's a movement, a comeback that's more than just a victory lap. This move represents more than just a return to NASCAR. It symbolizes a renewed commitment to Ram's performance roots and an aggressive play in a market that thrives on loyalty, power, and presence. Ram knows who it's talking to. These are the same people who grew up on burnouts, Friday night drag races, and the unmistakable sound of a V8 cracking open a country road. NASCAR fans aren't just looking for speed, they're looking for identity, and Ram is betting that its Hemi-fueled heritage will resonate louder than ever, wrapping it all in rubber and thunder. And there you have it, the return of a legend. After more than a decade in the rearview, Ram Trucks is blasting back onto the NASCAR stage, reviving the roar of the Hemi and launching a whole new era of American motorsport. This isn't just a race, it's a rallying cry, a declaration that Ram is more than just a truck manufacturer, it's a cultural force, one that knows how to capture hearts, spin tires, and own the spotlight. So, what do you think? Can Ram shake up the status quo, challenge the dominance of Ford and Chevy, and deliver a new golden age for the truck series? Or is this just a flashy pit stop in a much bigger branding game? We want to hear from you. Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and tell us, are you ready for Ramdemption? And while you're here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more high-octane stories from the world of motorsports, muscle, and machines. This is more than horsepower. It's history in the making. Ram is back. The Hemi is back. And NASCAR will never be the same.
Hey muscle car fanatics, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving headfirst into a rivalry as old as the asphalt itself. The 1971 Oldsmobile 442 W30 versus the 1972 Buick GS 455. Two titans of the muscle car era, each with their own unique flavor of American brute force. But which one truly reigns supreme? Before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's set the stage. The early 70s were a turbulent time for muscle cars. Emissions regulations were tightening, insurance premiums were skyrocketing, and the golden age of unrestricted horsepower was slowly but surely drawing to a close. These two machines represent some of the last glorious gasps of that era. The IIT 442W30, especially, was a final, no-holds-barred statement from Oldsmobile, while the 72 GS 455 showcased Buick's continued commitment to performance, even as the landscape shifted. Let's start with this beauty, the 1971 Oldsmobile 442 W30. Just look at it! The distinct Rom Air hood, the aggressive stance, those iconic stripes. This isn't just any 440. The W30 package was the absolute pinnacle of Olds performance. It meant a highly tuned 455 cubic inch V8, rated at a formidable 350 horsepower and a mind-boggling 500 pound-feet of torque. That's gross horsepower, folks, before the more restrictive net ratings came into play. It had specific cylinder heads, an aluminum intake manifold, and a performance camshaft. This car was built for one thing: going fast in a straight line. What do you think of that classic Olds grille? Now let's shift gears to the elegant but equally potent 1972 Buick GS 455. Buick always had a reputation for a more refined kind of performance, and the GS 455 is a perfect example. While it might appear a bit more understated than the W30, don't let that fool you. Underneath that sleek hood lies Buick's legendary 455 cubic inch Stage 1 engine. In '72, this motor was still making a very respectable 260 net horsepower, but the torque figure was still immense at 380 pound-feet. It was known for its incredible low-end grunt, pulling like a freight train from idle. Buick focused on making power usable, smooth, and delivering it with a certain panache. Notice the distinctive Buick grille and the subtly integrated scoops. A true gentleman's muscle car, perhaps? So, on paper, we have some interesting differences. The Olds 400mm W30, with its higher gross horsepower rating, often put down. Slightly better quarter-mile times in period tests. Think mid-13s, sometimes even low 13s with the right driver and tuning. It was raw, unbridled power. The Buick GS 455, on the other hand, while having a lower net horsepower rating, was renowned for its incredible torque delivery and drivability. It could often hang with or even beat competitors off the line thanks to that massive low-end grunt. It was a more streetable muscle car, perhaps more comfortable for everyday driving than the hardcore W30. Imagine yourself behind the wheel of the Oldsmobile 442 W30. You feel the engine vibration, the roar as you mash the throttle, the raw mechanical symphony. It's a visceral, unapologetic experience. The W30 was all about performance, sometimes at the expense of comfort. The ride could be firm, the steering a bit heavy, but when you hit that gas pedal, there was no mistaking its purpose. It demanded your attention. Now picture sliding into the cockpit of the Buick GS 455. There's a different kind of sensation. The seats might be a bit more plush, the interior a little more luxurious. But when you stomp on the gas, that massive 455 shoves you back in. The seat with an authority that's almost surprising given its refined demeanor. It's a powerful car, but it delivers its power with a smoother, more sophisticated feel. It's still a beast, but one wearing a velvet glove. So, the burning question, which one wins? And honestly, it really depends on what you value. If you're looking for the absolute rawest, most unadulterated muscle car experience, a car that was a final middle finger to the changing times, the 1971 Oldsmobile 442 W30 is a hard one to beat. It's a purebred drag strip terror with an undeniable presence. But if you appreciate a muscle car that combines immense power with a touch more refinement, a car that's equally at home cruising down the boulevard as it is laying down rubber, then the 1972 Buick GS 455 makes a very strong case. It's a testament to Buick's unique approach to performance. Both of these cars are incredible pieces of automotive history, representing the very best of American muscle before the horsepower wars truly cooled down. They are sought-after collector items for good reason, and each offers a unique window into a pivotal era. We want to hear from you. Which of these muscle car legends would you rather have in your garage? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this showdown. Subscribe for more classic car content and ring that notification bell.
Imagine the Indianapolis Colts playing the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. Peyton versus Eli, Manning a Manning. It could have happened, but now it probably won't. It did happen with two other brothers, not in an NFL game, but on streets and drag strips. Oldsmobile 442 W30 versus Buick GS 455 Stage 1. A body brothers each considered the gentleman's muscle car. Sibling rivals from the era when GM divisions competed more with each other than with Ford, Chrysler, or AMC. John Z. DeLorean started it all with a third brother, the 1964 Pontiac GTO. Olds dropped a 400 cube, 4-barrel dual exhaust into the Cutlass to create the 442 a few months later. When the 1965 Buick GS arrived within a year, it technically violated GM's 400 cubic inch displacement limit for a body cars. Badged as 400, its Wildcat V8 was a 401 cube, nailhead, V8. For years, the GTO was the king and the 442 its more refined, better handling sibling, while the Buick GS remained a subtle, relaxed contender on the sidelines. But when GM finally lifted the engine size limit in 1970, Buick was ready to make its move, armed with a monster 455 engine and an ambition to prove it was more than just a comfortable cruiser. The stage was set for a brief but legendary family feud, a body brothers in arms, the Buick GS 455 versus Oldsmobile 442 W30. By the time upscale Buick finally challenged Olds in the muscle car race, it was already over. Imagine the Indianapolis Colts playing the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. Peyton versus Eli, Manning a Manning. It could have happened, but now it probably won't. It did happen with two other brothers, not in an NFL game, but on streets and drag strips. Oldsmobile 442 W30 versus Buick GS 455 Stage 1. A body brothers each considered the gentleman's muscle car. Sibling rivals from the era when GM divisions competed more with each other than with Ford, Chrysler, or AMC. John Z. DeLorean started it all with a third brother, the 1964 Pontiac GTO. Olds dropped a 400 cube, 4-barrel dual exhaust into the Cutlass to create the 442 a few months later. When the 1965 Buick GS arrived within a year, it technically violated GM's 400 cubic inch displacement limit for a body cars. Badged as 400, its Wildcat V8 was a 401 cube, nailhead, V8. GM replaced its 1964, 67A bodies with new 1968 models, with new sheet metal scheduled for every 2 years. Through 69, the GTO was GM's preeminent muscle car, and the 442 was its more refined brother, with better handling. The subtle, more relaxed GS wasn't a contender. GM did away with its 400 cube limit for the 1970 model year, and Buick was ready, especially after the 1969 Opel GT launch. The increase in showroom floor traffic when the GT went on display early in April was almost unbelievable, reads the Buick Engineering Production Information Department's outline of the 1970 GSX. Some Buick dealers reported 5,000 people through their showrooms in one weekend. Paul Haddock, owner of the 1972 Buick GS 455 Stage 1 on these pages, sent a copy of that report. He also owns a 1970 Stage 1 hardtop and a 1971 GS 455 convertible. The GSX, a 455 cubic inch Buick A-body with mod graphics typical of the era, would be the Skylark's Halo model, which Buick hoped might help close the model's 50,000 unit annual sales gap relative to the Olds Cutlass. When torque came to shove, it wasn't the GSX, with un-Buick-like flat black stripes on deep yellow paint, that gave the GS street cred. It was the Stage 1455. It's the car that beat the Hemi, CUDA, allows Mike Bivens, owner of the 1971 Olds 442 W30 sharing these pages with Haddock's Stage 1. Like Manning versus Manning, the Olds versus Buick muscle car rivalry would be short-lived. Car insurance rates were rising steeply by the late 60s, and the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, established in December 1970, enacted immediate restrictions on leaded premium fuel. Stricter regs were due in 1975. Olds and Buick lowered the compression ratio on their blueprinted 1971 W30 and Stage 1 engines from 10.5.1 to 8.5.1 and complied with a mandated switch from say gross to net horsepower reporting. By 1972, the Hemi, CUDA that Buick beat in 70 was gone, and the Plymouth Pony's top engine was a 260 HP, 340 cubic inch V8. A year later, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries staged their first oil embargo. Despite the almost total demise of the high-compression, premium fuel engine, the 71 supercars have managed to retain their essential vitality, A.B. Schumann wrote in the October 1970 issue of Motor Trend. In Schumann's story, the Buick GS 455 Stage 1 edged a 71 W30 prototype with a 4-speed stick and 70 sheet metal, recording a 6.5-second 0-60 run to the Olds 6.6. It was quicker than the GTO, Chevy Chevelle SS 454, Camaro Z28, and Plymouth Roadrunner. Schumann asked Olds for an automatic W30 to see what effect its combo of torque converter and different valve timing would have. It beat the Buick with a 6.1-second 0-60. The amazing thing, considering all that's happened just in the area of emissions controls, Schumann wrote, is that a car that runs like the GS Stage 1 could still exist. It was faster than the manual GTO and W30 automatic of 1972, beating the latter by 0.8 seconds in 0–60 mph times and by 0.4 seconds and 5 mph in the quarter. Haddock's 1972 Stage 1 exists only because a 1971 United Auto Workers strike delayed GM's Colonnade, a body replacements by one model year. Ad Huckster, Dr. Oldsmobile's 442 was a separate model from 1967 to 71, then became an option package on Cutlasses again in 1972. The 72 facelifts were minimal, with chrome headlamp surrounds as on Bivens' car on the 71 Olds and Buick, flat black surrounds as on Haddock's car on the 72s, and tweaked grille meshes. Bivens' Olds doesn't have the two vertical pieces that split the tail lamps into thirds like the 72 models. Black rubber trim surrounds the tail lamps on Haddock's 1972 GS, but not on his 71. The Olds is the epitome of Bill Mitchell's organic fuselage surfacing, with a large, split grille and a sleek fastback with strong, muscular rear shoulders. The Buick is sublime with two small ram air intakes near the center of the hood, where the W30 has two gigantic golden scoops. Side surfacing is more creased, lending the GS a kind of abstract Coke bottle shape. Haddock has restuffed his driver's seat, so you sit high in the Buick. Both tachometers are hard to read behind thin-rimmed steering wheels. The Oldsmobile's tach is of the tick-tock variety, and Bivens' car features a Hurst dual-gate shifter, with a separate gate for manual shifting. It's easier to simply set either turbo hydromatic in drive and put your foot to the floor. The steering in both cars has more play than a kindergarten gym. Neither has the kind of lean or wallow most contemporaries would display even on gentle turns. Though it feels slightly quicker, the GS has less squat and tighter, more refined body control. Those huge ram air intakes on the W30 makes the Oldsmobile feel bigger from behind the wheel. Its engine warmed, the W30 starts immediately. The Stage 1 needs a quarter throttle. Haddock put 70 Stage 1 10.5 pistons in his 72 because, why wouldn't I? Both are stronger cars than other 70s muscle cars, their power coming on strong at the mid-range, with a NASCAR growl that would do a modern car proud. The rivalry was indeed short-lived. A perfect storm was brewing that would extinguish the brilliant flame of the muscle car era. It wasn't one single event, but a convergence of forces that made these cars untenable. The first wave of attack came from the insurance industry. By the late 1960s, actuaries had identified a clear and costly correlation between high horsepower and high risk. Premiums for young drivers wanting to own a big block performance car skyrocketed, becoming as burdensome as the car payment itself, effectively pricing an entire generation of enthusiasts out of the market. The creation of the Environmental Protection Agency in December 1970 signaled a seismic shift in national priorities. The era of unchecked emissions was over. The first casualty was leaded premium gasoline, the lifeblood of the high-compression engines that were the heart and soul of these machines. This forced a dramatic change in engineering. For 1971, both Oldsmobile and Buick had to slash the compression ratios on their top-tier engines, the W30 and the Stage 1, from a muscular 10.5 down to a wheezy 8.5 The difference in power was palpable. The mandated switch from the optimistic SAE gross horsepower ratings, measured on a perfectly blueprinted engine on a stand, to the more realistic SAE net ratings, which measured power as installed in the car with all accessories, made the performance drop seem even more catastrophic on paper. The knockout blow, however, came from halfway around the world. In 1973, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC, initiated an oil embargo. Gas prices quadrupled almost overnight, and long lines at the pump became a national nightmare. The idea of driving a car that achieved single-digit miles per gallon became not just a financial burden, but a social and political statement. The gas-guzzling V8, once a symbol of American freedom and industrial might, was suddenly a pariah. As A.B. Schumann wrote in his Sayonara Supercar article, it was amazing that cars like the 72 Stage 1 could even exist in this new climate. But they were the last of their kind. The 1972 models, like the ones owned by Paul Haddock and Mike Bivens, are automotive ghosts, existing only because a UAW strike delayed their more neutered Colonnade replacements for a single year. After 71, the legendary 442 designation was relegated to a mere option package. After 72, the Hemi was dead, and the mightiest GTO was a ghost of its former self. The race was over, yet the legacy of these two A-body brothers endures. They represent the absolute pinnacle of what GM's divisions could achieve when the gloves were off. The Olds 442 W30 remains a masterpiece of balanced performance, a car celebrated for its handling and refined power. And the Buick GS 455 Stage 1, the torque monster, finally gave the upscale brand the street credibility it had long deserved, proving that a gentleman's car could deliver a knockout punch. In the end, it doesn't matter which car was a tenth of a second faster. What matters is that for a brief, shining moment, these two siblings stood at the summit of the muscle car world, the last deep breaths of a golden age before the inevitable sunset.
In 1967, two legends roared to life: the Ford Mustang GT390 and the Chevrolet Camaro RS SS 350. This was no ordinary model year. It was the beginning of a rivalry that would define American muscle for generations. Let's take a look back at the very first battle of the pony cars. The Ford Mustang and Chevy Camaro have probably sold more magazines than any other pair of cars. Pit the two against each other, and you have a contest with the same emotional appeal as Mac versus PC, Coke versus Pepsi, Army versus Navy. Such contests have been widened to include Cudas, Firebirds, Javelins, and others, but most customers pay to watch the Ford and Chevy duke it out. The cars pictured here could have competed in round one of this epic battle: a third-year redesigned Mustang GT 390 and a freshly minted Camaro RS SS 350. Each was built early in the 1967 model year with the highest-performing mainstream engine and suspension packages available. In the early 1960s, the first baby boomers were coming of age, and market research suggested they wouldn't be buying the cars their parents drove. They'd be looking to express themselves, but on a budget. Everyone got the message, and GM was the first to respond. To keep costs down, the Big Three leveraged the compacts they'd reluctantly introduced in 1960 to stem the flood of small imported cars. Plymouth had the Valiant, and Ford had the Falcon, both of which were miniaturized big cars. Chevrolet went with the more daring and sophisticated rear engine, air-cooled, independently suspended Corvair. This radical car never caught on with the masses. The Falcon outsold it by 74%, prompting development of the more conventional Chevy II Nova for 1962. But by bolting in bucket seats and sporty trim, the mid-1960 Corvair Monza became just what the boomers wanted, and it soon evolved into the young person's cool car. By 1963, Monzas accounted for 80% of Corvair sales. The 1964 Falcon-based Mustang and Valiant-based Barracuda were designed in response to the Monza's success. Meanwhile, Chevrolet design chief Irv Rybicki wondered aloud to GM design boss Bill Mitchell whether Chevy might win additional sales. By offering a cut-rate personal coupe, a Riviera shrunk to fit a Chevy budget. Mitchell liked the idea and set up a secret studio in a warehouse, where Project XP836 was born. Riding atop the Chevy 2 platform, the clay model's dimensions and long hood short deck proportions were eerily similar to the Mustang's. Chevy. Boss Bunky Knudsen liked the clay model, but demurred, noting that with the Corvette and Corvair Monza covering the sporty spectrum, the Chevy 2 and Chevelle spanning the mid-market, and a broad, full-size lineup, the last thing Chevy needed, or could afford, was another new car. Can you blame him? But the Mustang arrived and instantly became more popular than sex and chocolate, not to mention the Corvair Monza, sales of which plunged by a third in 1964. At first, GM brass was unimpressed with what they saw as an angular, unimaginative design. They felt certain their svelte, Euro-styled 1965 Corvair replacement could hold its own. But dealers signed 26,000 Mustang orders on the first day, and after 4 months and 100,000 sales, Chevy swallowed its pride and green-lighted development of a conventional front-engine, rear-drive competitor, codenamed F-Body. The mandate: make it longer, lower, wider, faster, and better in every way. The warehouse project resumed where it had left off. A replacement for the Chevy Dessato Nova was slated for 1968, and the F-car would share its architecture, which consisted of a unit body aft of the firewall, bolted via tuned rubber mounts to a front stub frame. This combo boasted the packaging efficiency of a unit body with the ride and powertrain isolation of a body on frame. For the first time at Chevy, computers helped speed the tuning of the aerodynamics and the suspension's ride-handling calibration. Dimensionally, the F-car measured several inches longer and wider than the original Mustang, and each of its initial engine offerings trumped the power of its closest Mustang rival. Initially, there were 2 inline 6s and 3 small-block V8s in 5 states of tune, depending on carbs and exhaust, followed by a pair of 396-cube big block options introduced in November 1966. Chevy reckoned the key to winning over boomers was letting them custom-tailor their pony car, so the order sheet included a staggering array of 80 factory options and 40 dealer accessories. As the fall 1966 launch date loomed, all that was left was to choose a name for Chevy's Mustang killer. Panther, Nova, and Chaparral were considered and rejected. After mining the foreign language dictionaries, Camaro won the day. Chevy defined its meaning as French slang for companion, though Ford favored the Spanish translation, a type of sea shrimp. Detroit's a small town, so Ford had ample time to prepare for the Camaro. Having cranked out 1 million Mustangs, the tooling was shot anyway. In order to keep ahead on the power front, a 390 big block option was added to the order book. Accommodating it required stretching the front end 2 inches and widening the car by 2.7 inches, widening the track 2.5 inches and raising the front. Suspension's roll center improved handling, and interior space increased marginally. Stylists preserved but embellished all the original design elements, stretching the hood, widening the grille, deepening the side scallops, and extending the fastback's roofline to the rear of the car. So how did the upstart Camaro fare against the million-strong Mustang? Motor Trend ran the first driving impressions of both cars in December 1966, but they were driven by different authors at separate venues and hence not compared. The Mustang GT 390, with its enlarged front anti-roll bar and stiffened springs, 30% front, 26% rear, drew praise for its quieter ride and improved handling, though it remained a heavy understeerer, and the big block produced major axle tramp on full-power launches. The Camaro RSSS 350's standard traction bar reduced wheel hop. Later Camaros cured the problem using staggered shocks, but excessive tire spin demanded a light touch at launch. The front disc brakes required similarly light footwork to keep from locking. Stops from 60 meters took 156 feet versus the GT 390's 134. In May 1967, we finally got all the ponies together, testing several variants of each. This time, the Mustangs understeered the most, the Camaros the least, and the V8 Chevys were prone to throttle oversteer. The Camaro felt the most agile in tight, twisty maneuvers, but its 2-speed automatic drew loud criticism. We dinged the Mustang for unlighted ventilation controls that only the driver could reach, while the Camaro took heat for its lack of instrumentation and the low mounting location of the auxiliary gauges. No outright winner was declared, though reading between the lines, the Camaro seemed the favorite. Car and Driver compared the Trans Am Racing homologation versions of each and gave the nod to the Camaro Z28, which outperformed the tunnel port. Mustang in acceleration, 13.8 versus 14.0 in the quarter, and braking, 1.02 G versus 0.86 G. Road and Track chose a 289-powered Mustang over its 327-cube Camaro competitor judging the soft-riding Camaro to be, frankly, a disappointment. Our photo cars were originally purchased by well-heeled boomers demanding the best-dressed pony on the block. Each spent half again the base price on optional upgrades, and as a result, both look and feel special, inside and out. The Camaros. A $105 RS exterior decor package adds classy hidden headlamps and chrome flourishes that sparkle against the royal plum paint and white vinyl top. Interior extravagances include air conditioning, power windows, a console with gauge package, deluxe, striped upholstery, and an odd fold-down rear seatback that doesn't pass through to the trunk. Our Clearwater Aqua Mustang is similarly equipped, with interior and exterior spiffs like turn signal indicators on the hood, extra chrome and styled steel wheels outside, two-tone aqua vinyl upholstery, a console with roll-top stowage compartment, and a fold-down seat accessing the trunk. From the wheel, the two cars feel more different than what their spec sheets suggest. The fastback Mustang looks racier, and the view down its extra-long hood reinforces the impression. The big block 390 seems always to be straining at the leash with its 3-speed C6 automatic ready to make the most of the available torque, though the 3.1 axle is better geared for economical cruising than jackrabbit starts. Overboosted power steering, typical of the day, transmits little road feel, but the heavy springs and shocks appear to control body motions quite well. The GT traverses bumps and dips without losing its composure. This restored 57,000-mile Camaro is tight and carefully assembled despite the beating it takes from period-correct Firestone wide-O oval bias ply tires that provide little cushioning over the rough stuff. The venerable 350 small block exhales a sonorous burble through the SS350's dual deep-tone mufflers. It accelerates briskly at lower speeds, but the two-cog Powerglide slush box is a liability. Shifts are smooth while accelerating, but it clunks into low gear when slowing to a stop. The 396 big block and turbo-hydromatic 3-speed was a better match for the 390 Mustang. The steering and brakes feel even more overboosted than the Mustangs, but that's all part of the charm of a 1960s pony. While rare option Z28 and Shelby GT3 500 variants of the classic pony cars are gaveling stratospheric prices at auction, more mainstream models like these are still affordable. For $30,000 to $35,000, you can get a solid driver that's easy to maintain and repair and loads of fun at cruise nights. From bold styling to fierce competition, the 1967 Mustang and Camaro ignited a legacy still felt today. Whether you're Team Chevy or Ford faithful.
Welcome to another episode of Archive Drive, where history meets horsepower. Today, we take a deep dive into one of the most refined and underrated rivalries of the muscle car era. The Buick GS 455 Stage 1 versus the Oldsmobile 442W30. These weren't just performance cars. They were statement pieces from two of GM's most upscale brands, siblings at war in a GM family feud that briefly set the streets and drag strips on fire. Origins of the Gentleman MUSCLECARS. Let's rewind to the mid-1960s. Pontiac had already kick-started the muscle car movement with the legendary 1964 GTO, thanks to the vision of John Z. DeLorean. Not wanting to be left behind, Oldsmobile answered the call with the 442, born as an upscale Cutlass with serious power and handling. Just months later, Buick introduced its own contender, the Grand Sport. Though it was badged with a 400, the GS actually featured a 401 cubic inch nailhead V8, slightly skirting GM's own internal engine displacement rules. Fast forward to 1970, and GM finally lifted its 400c limit for A-body cars. This opened the floodgates, and Buick didn't hesitate. Enter the Buick GS 455 Stage 1 and the Oldsmobile 442W30. Both were classy, both were brutal, and both were aimed not at kids in denim jackets, but executives with leather briefcases and lead feet. Rising to the occasion, Buick wasn't exactly known for performance, but the company was eager to change that. The 1970 launch of the Opel GT had brought unexpected traffic to Buick showrooms. That excitement gave birth to the GSX, a wild-looking GS 455 in yellow with flat black stripes, designed to catch eyes and boost sales. But it wasn't just about looks. Underneath that hood was the torque monster Stage 1455 V8, producing up to 510 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the strongest engines GM ever built. Oldsmobile wasn't standing still either. The W30 variant of the 442 had always been more than just a sticker package. It featured aluminum components, upgraded internals, and those massive dual-hood scoops that fed cold air to the high-compression V8 beneath. This was a rare period in automotive history when GM divisions weren't competing with Ford or Chrysler. They were competing with each other. The GS 455 Stage 1 and W30 were essentially first cousins, sharing the same A-body platform, but each fine-tuned to their division's unique character. Stage 1 versus W30 on the street. So how did they actually compare on the street? In a 1970 Motor Trend showdown, a Buick GS 455 Stage 1 clocked 0 to 60 in 6.5 seconds, barely edging out a 71 W30 prototype at 6.6 seconds. But the story didn't end there. When Oldsmobile offered up a W30 with an automatic and different valve timing, it blasted to 60 in just 6.1 seconds, quicker than the GTO, the Chevelle SS 454, and even the Plymouth Roadrunner. The cars weren't just fast, they had poise. Despite their size, both handled better than their muscle car peers. The GS was more buttoned down, refined, with tighter body control and less squat under acceleration. The W30 had that raw, muscle feel, larger hood scoops, a throaty growl, and a more aggressive aesthetic. But in the cabin, both felt luxurious, a stark contrast to the bare-bones interiors of many performance cars of the day. The muscle car era fades. Unfortunately, just as Buick and Olds found their muscle mojo, the party ended. Rising insurance premiums, stricter emissions regulations, and the birth of the EPA all landed between 1970 and 1972. Compression ratios were lowered across the board, from 10.5:1 to 8.5:1. Gross horsepower ratings were replaced with net figures. In short, the muscle era was winding down, and these high-powered machines were on borrowed time. By 1972, the mighty Hemi Cuda was gone, and muscle cars like the GTO and Chevelle were shadows of their former selves. Yet, somehow, the Buick GS Stage 1 still stood tall. In Motor Trend's 1972 Sayonara Supercar feature, it outran both the GTO and the W30 in 0 to 60 in the quarter mile. Even neutered, it had muscle. These cars only survived because a 1971 UAW strike delayed GM's next General A body, giving us one final year of truly legendary muscle before the curtain fell. Design and legacy. Visually, these cars are a study in contrast and identity. The Olds W30 carried Bill Mitchell's organic fuselage lines, a split grille, wide hips, and flowing fastback lines. The Buick had a cleaner, more formal look with refined surface creases and two centered ram air scoops on the hood. Inside, both were comfortable, plush even. The Olds had its Hurst dual-gate shifter. The Buick, tall seating, soft ride, but undeniable strength beneath. Both cars had play in the steering. This was still early 70s Detroit iron, after all, but neither wallowed like their full-size siblings. Their power bands were strongest in the mid-range. Once warmed up, they roared with NASCAR-like fury. Haddock's 1972 GS 455 even uses 70 spec 10.5:1 pistons. Why wouldn't I? He said. That sums it up perfectly. In the twilight of the muscle car era, when the roar of high-compression V8s began to fade under the weight of regulation and rising fuel costs, two unlikely contenders stood tall, refined, elegant, and unapologetically powerful. The Buick GS 455 Stage 1 and the Oldsmobile 442 W30 weren't the loudest kids on the block, but they were among the most composed. These weren't stripped-down street brawlers built solely for drag strips. These were muscle cars for executives, engineers, and enthusiasts who wanted big power with a touch of class. They were the gentleman's hot rods. Both machines had the strength to run with the legends, challenging Hemis, Chevelles, and GTOs, but they delivered that performance with maturity. The GS 455 Stage 1 was a torque titan, quiet on idle, but savage when provoked. The W30? A perfect blend of raw induction and refined engineering. In many ways, these cars were a final love letter to the muscle era before it was dismantled by insurance actuaries and emissions mandates. They weren't built to sell millions. They weren't created to appease the masses. They were crafted for those who truly understood what made performance special. Those who appreciated the blend of engineering excellence and mechanical muscle. Today, they exist not just as collector's items tucked away in climate-controlled garages, but as symbols. Symbols of a time when GM's internal divisions competed fiercely, building faster, more powerful cars not just to outpace Ford or Chrysler, but to outshine each other. The Buick GS 455 Stage 1 and the Oldsmobile 442 W30 weren't just rivals. They were brothers in arms, forged from the same corporate steel, each trying to outclass the other on their own terms. So as we look back, it's not just about horsepower or 0 to 60 times. It's about the soul of the machine, the pride of the badge, the sense that what you were driving wasn't just fast, it was something special. Which one would you choose? The composed and thunderous GS 455 Stage 1 or the aggressive and iconic W30? Let us know in the comments, which of these GM Titans would you put in your dream garage? If you loved this deep dive into GM's muscle car civil war, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more legendary matchups, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next episode. Until next time, keep the throttle down and the nostalgia.
Imagine it's 1958. Elvis is still under 200 pounds. The bridge on the River Kwai is topping box offices, and America is both obsessed with the future and terrified of it. Sputnik's beeping over our heads. The Cold War is heating up, but here in Los Angeles, the vibe is still pure neon optimism. And on the streets of this sprawling, sun-drenched city, there's a new car gleaming with promise and chrome. The 1958 Ford Edsel Ranger. Welcome to Googie Nights, a retro road trip through 1950s Los Angeles in one of the most misunderstood and unforgettable cars ever made. The Edsel was supposed to be Ford's crown jewel, a bold new brand filled with more you ideas. But instead of a space-age savior, it became the poster child for corporate failure. It was hyped like a flying saucer, built like a land yacht, and remembered more for its unfortunate grille than its innovations. But here's the thing. The Edsel is far more than just a punchline. It's a time capsule, a rolling monument to an America that dreamed in chrome and fiberglass. And there's no better place to drive one than through the heart of the mid-century modern dreamland, Los Angeles. This is a city where Googie architecture, named after a wild star-tipped coffee shop, turned gas stations into rocket ships and diners into spaceships. You didn't just stop for coffee, you landed at a neon-lit command post. LA in the 50s was Walt Disney's Tomorrowland come to life, with buildings shaped like record stacks, hot dog stands the size of hot dogs, and drive-ins that looked like launch pads. In this video, we're renting a real deal 1958 Edsel Ranger and hitting the most iconic and eccentric landmarks of atomic age Los Angeles. From the legendary Taylor the Pup and the Formosa Cafe to the record-stacked Capitol Records building, we're chasing the last glowing embers of Googie glamour. So, buckle in, fire up that 361 cubic inch V8, and let's take a drive through. A world where architecture pointed to the stars, celebrities haunted roadside diners, and America's car culture hit full throttle. Elvis still weighted under 200 pounds. The bridge on the River Kwai was on its way to becoming the year's top-grossing film without a single Major Warden or Colonel Nicholson Happy Meal action figurine having been sold. Running around naked in the backyard carried a new risk Sputnik. Might be peaking. And the Ford Motor Company, apparently jealous of all the press the Hindenburg had received, was finally selling its all-new Edsel, a car that for 2 years it had hyped so breathlessly. More you ideas. The public no doubt expected a flying carpet that ran on plutonium. No American city in 1958 was a more fitting backdrop for a gleaming new example of four-wheeled fabulous orama technology than Los Angeles. The goofy Tomorrowland optimism of Walt Disney's nearby theme park had spilled right over the monorail and onto the sprawling auto-worshipping streets of LA itself. Want a quick breakfast? Just drive to the store shaped like a giant donut. Hoping to start your singing career? Head to the office building resembling a stack of records. Wife needs a new bra? Better find something that looks like a big Bloomingdale's. The rocket-age city of angels was having a blast, and no savvy business owner could resist taking a big living color bite of kitsch. Drive-through car washes looked like flying saucers. Gas stations became space stations. The average roadside motel blazed with more tiki torches than the entire island of Tahiti. Even coffee shops caught the fever. Soon after, pioneering architect John Lautner designed a flamboyant glass-walled neon-splashed diner called Googie's, its roof angling toward the stars from the pop culture epicenter of LA on the Sunset Strip. Seemingly every budget eatery in town and across America was launching meteors from its signs and slapping rocket fins onto its deep fryers. Googie architecture was born. Very soon, of course, the whiz-bang Edsel went the way of, well, the Edsel. Gushed an ad in 1958. The Edsel look is here to stay, which was true only if you counted very, very slowly, just 1 year after. The car's debut, Ford revised the dramatic horse collar grille, largely because most people thought it looked like, well, if you want us to say what it resembles out loud, you'll have to pick up a copy of Motor Trend Hefner. By 1960, Ford had shrunk the pseudo-collar thing into oblivion. Then just 3 years after its Geraldo Rivera grade entrance, the Edsel itself disappeared. Within the next decade, Googie followed. The Kennedy assassinations, Vietnam, Susan. Sontag Novels America wasn't in such a good mood anymore. Across the country, the meteors cratered, the tiki torches flamed out. Undoubtedly, due to its iconic status, the original Googie's coffee shop managed to survive until 1989, when it was finally bulldozed to make room for a very important Virgin megastore. By then, though, the Googie life was long dead. Of course, nobody loves a great second act more than Hollywood. For the fan of 50s culture, Los Angeles is one of the country's prime public time machines, thanks to the work of vocal preservationists and the fact that LA remains a leading purveyor of quirkiness. Devotees can still find plenty of mid-century lore here. Famous 1950s landmarks, period houses, kitsch classics, globules of Googie. We dusted off a 1958 two-door Ford Edsel Ranger from the Motor Trend vehicle humidor. Okay. We rented it from a company that supplies cars to movie studios and hit the streets in search of that heady, spacey land that restraint forgot. Kids didn't walk to school in the 1950s because America was a safer place. They walked because damned if mom was gonna wrestle with 2 tons of atomic age steel, lacking both power brakes and power steering any more than was absolutely necessary. Our Edsel has neither. They were options on the entry-level Ranger. So performing 3-point turns amid the palm trees of Beverly Hills is like trying to drag a 5-year-old out of a showing of Madagascar. After a workout like this, you need a hot dog. That's right, just look for the gigantic tube steak. Tail of the Pup is to LA what the Eiffel Tower is to Paris, and not just because both are full of weenies. Built just after World War II, the Pup is quintessential kitsch and a true Los Angeles landmark, which accounts for its presence in countless movies, among them LA Story and Body Double. Orson Welles loved to fill up on the Pup's dogs, yet that hasn't scared the customers away. Order a baseball special, mustard, relish, onions, then get back in line and order another. In our first Edsel Ranger road test in October 1957, we measured a 0 to 60 to me of time of 10.2 seconds. That feels about right. A modern V6 Camry would blow. The 361 cubic inch V8 Edsel into the weeds. The old girl bolts smartly away from stoplights though, thanks in part to 400 pound-feet of torque. Our Ranger also has the optional TeleTouch automatic transmission, which allows the selection of drive, reverse, etc. via push buttons on the steering wheel hub. Very George Jetson, especially considering that it was nearly half a century before Michael Schumacher finally got rid of his shift lever. Another Edsel innovation is its horizontal rolling dome speedometer, which looks like a giant compass. Come right to a heading of 45 miles per hour, Arthur. Believe it or not, there's actually some debate as to whether the Capitol Records building was intentionally designed to look like a stack of records. Why, sure. And it's pure coincidence that a guy looking very much like Abraham Lincoln ended up inside the Lincoln Memorial. Anyway, Capitol's 13-story headquarters, built in 1954 and just north of the famed intersection of Hollywood and Vine, lays claim to being the world's first circular office building. Don't be surprised if the company's next HQ accidentally gets shaped like an iPod. She looks just like Lana Turner. She is Lana Turner. What? She is Lana Turner. In 1997, director Curtis Hanson shot one of the most memorable scenes of his brilliant 1950s film, noir homage LA Confidential, in the Formosa Cafe. Built in 1925, by the 1950s, the Formosa had become an A-list celebrity hangout, as the countless star headshots on the walls attest. The real Lana Turner and her gangster boyfriend Johnny Stompanato were indeed Formosa regulars, at least until the star's teenage daughter had a hissy fit and stabbed Stompanato to death at their home in 1958. Drop into the Formosa for a drink. Today. And there's a good chance you'll spot a modern-day celeb, no surprise, given that right across the street is the former Goldwyn Studio, now known as The Lot, filming site for such 1950s classics as Some Like It Hot and West Side Story. You're hungry again. Barney's Beanery, a funky, memorabilia-filled bar and billiard parlor with a menu as thick as a newspaper, has been in its current location since 1927, when John Barney Anthony served beans to drivers passing via Old Route 66. Many of them, arriving in California to start new lives, nailed their old license plates to the wall, where they remain today. By the 50s, Barney's had become a beatnik hangout. Among them were James Dean and a still unknown Janis Joplin. Some of the patrons at the bar look like they've been there since then too. Though it wasn't built until 1965, Jack Coker's Union 76 station in Beverly Hills is one of SoCal's finest existing examples of 1950s-style space-age architecture. The Edsel seems to belong under the station's sweeping canopy roof, at least until that price sign comes into view. $3.11 for a gallon of premium? Surely an extra digit got tacked on there by mistake. What, no free roadmap? Don't you know what time-space continuum we're from? It's been a long day of sightseeing and dodging annoying sightseers. The old Edsel has been a peach though, always starting right up. Complex electro shift transmission, working fine, never overheating when idling in the sun. But hey, the Edsel sure does look swell pulling up under the winking neon of Norm's coffee shop on La Cienega. Designed in 1957 by John Lautner contemporaries Louis Armé and Eldon Davis, Norm's is a bona fide Googie masterpiece. Soaring jet wing roof, aquarium-like walls of glass, enough combined candle power to illuminate the Super Bowl. The hipsters. Come here now for late-night coffee and pancakes. After-bar food, they call it. In the 1950s, it would have been hangover-o-matic. What really killed Edsel? Forget the styling, the Eisenhower recession, the poor initial quality, and the untried dealer network. Edsel was dead before the first car was even sold. Edsel was key to an ambitious Ford plan to tackle GM's Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac. The idea was to build 3 basic bodies, small, medium, and large, and spread the costs across 5 divisions: Ford, Edsel, Mercury, Lincoln, and Continental. The Fords and entry-level Edsels would share the small body. The upscale Edsels and standard Mercurys would share the medium body. And a new Super Mercury would be built off the next generation Lincoln body. The wheels began to fall off in 1956 when Chief Engineer Earl McPherson ordered the 1958 Lincoln be switched to a unibody design to boost volume at the Wixom plant. Built to manufacture the unibody 1958 Thunderbird, effectively killing the Super Mercury. Then, the day after the Edsel went on sale in 1957, Ford Division Chief Robert McNamara, who resented the power of the product planners responsible for the Edsel, was made a group vice president. Sources insist that McNamara had let slip that The Edsel would be discontinued, and sure enough, he began hacking away at the slow-selling Edsel's budget. Within months, he had reduced his future product plans to a different grille for 1960 Fords. In his book, A Disaster in Dearborn, O. Thomas E. Bonsall blames the Edsel's demise on the Byzantine politics played by warring management factions. If Ford Motor Company management wasn't willing to invest several years of effort in the Edsel, they didn't deserve to succeed. After a full day on the glittering, nostalgic streets of Los Angeles, the 1958 Edsel Ranger hasn't just taken us from place to place, it's taken us back in time. It's helped us rediscover a chapter of American optimism when cars weren't just transportation, they were statements, symbols of prosperity, power, and possibility. And what a ride it's been. We started in the land of giant hot dogs and record-shaped buildings, where kitsch was king and neon ruled the night. We rode through Beverly Hills, cruised Sunset Boulevard, and stopped at some of the most iconic mid-century landmarks that still survive. Barely. These aren't just tourist spots, they're living artifacts, holding on to the last echoes of a space-age dream. The Edsel itself? It held up beautifully. No power steering, no power brakes, but a whole lot of personality. That quirky teletouch transmission, the rolling dome speedometer, and the dramatic curves and chrome. It's easy to see why it turned heads, even if it flopped on the sales floor. But here's the truth. The Edsel didn't fail because it was ugly or underpowered. It failed because of corporate infighting, bad timing, and a lack of long-term vision. It was a car meant for a future that never quite arrived. And that makes it even more fascinating today. In many ways, Googie culture and the Edsel share the same story. Both were born of post-war American confidence. Both shot for the stars. And both were abandoned when the mood changed. But if you ask us, there's something magical in that failure. Something real. Something worth revisiting. So if you've enjoyed this ride through America's chrome-plated past, give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment about your favorite retro landmark, and don't forget to subscribe for more vintage road trips, automotive history, and time warp travels. We're just getting started because the road may move forward, but sometimes the best way to understand where we're going is to cruise back into where we've been.
Long a builder of strictly, almost starkly functional utility-type vehicles, Willys adds a whole new dimension to the line with Kaiser Jeep's new 1963 Jeep Wagoneer. Up to now, most four-wheel drive enthusiasts, of which there are thousands, have been faced with the problem of needing two cars in the garage, a daily driver and an off-roader. Jeep and other 4x4 vehicles are the greatest for tooling over cow trails or across uncharted deserts. But for the most part, they're either too slow or too cramped and uncomfortable for freeway cruising. In most cases, true four-wheeling aficionados tow their rigs to the point where the modern highway stops and the real backcountry begins. With the new Jeep Wagoneer in the garage, the other car is no longer necessary. This is one vehicle that's equally at home anywhere. The Wagoneer was loaded with just about everything offered: power steering, power brakes, automatic transmission, independent front suspension, radio and heater, plus a host of minor accessories. One other small but important accessory was the worn hubs installed on the front wheels. These enabled us, by a simple twist of the wrist, to cut out the front wheels in two-wheel drive. This means less drag, therefore better mileage as well as less wear. We were favorably impressed with the recently introduced Tornado 230 inline-six engine. This is the only single overhead cam engine, OHC, produced in America at this time, and if Kaiser Jeep is successful with it, other manufacturers might follow suit. This i6 features an aluminum head, 8.5-to-1 compression ratio, 2-barrel carburetor, and 3.8 liters of displacement. Horsepower is very conservatively rated at 140, SAE gross, at 4,000 RPM. The relatively long stroke-to-bore ratio brings the torque peak in at a rather low RPM, 210 lb-ft at 1,700 RPM, which means that this engine will really buckle down and pull when the going is rough and slow. Out on the highway, the high horsepower peaking speed allows the Wagoneer to keep up with traffic and still have plenty left for passing. The power flow is smooth, and even though this is an OHC engine, Its operation is very quiet. The 3-speed automatic transmission, made by Borg-Warner, is hooked up to the front and rear axles through a single-range transfer case. Models with 3-speed manual transmissions are equipped with a dual-range transfer case, high and low. 2-wheel drive models can be had with 3-speed manual overdrive transmission. Our test car had the standard, for automatics, 3.73:1 axle ratio. Wagons with manual transmissions have 4.09 rear axle ratios. Acceleration is quite lively for a vehicle of this type. It compares very favorably to most of the passenger cars of its size. A top speed of 90 mph, true, not indicated, was reached on the test track at Riverside Raceway. The standing quarter mile took 20.5 seconds, with a speed of 68 mph. Standing start acceleration runs of 0:30, 0:45, and 0:60 mph took 4.6, 8.8, and 16.1 seconds. We didn't use forced shifts during any of the acceleration tests, but let the transmission do its own work. Maximum speeds at shift points were 31 mph, 4,000 RPM in first, and 51 mph, 3 to 800 RPM in second. At this time, Jeep is selling all of this model it can produce, and even has a rather large number of back orders. As a result, we couldn't keep the Wagoneer as long as we'd liked. It was already sold, so our fuel consumption figures aren't as complete as they usually are. We were able to determine that normal city and freeway driving will give figures in the 14 to 18 mpg range, going as high as 21 or 22 mpg for steady, legal limit highway cruising. In rough backcountry, with all 4 wheels pulling, the range drops to 10 to 14 mpg. With the 20-gallon fuel tank, this gives an operating range of anywhere from 200 to slightly over 400 miles to a tank of gas, regular grade, at that. One of the few complaints we had with the car centers on the fuel tank. It's a long, narrow tank that nestles up between the rear drive shaft and the curbside frame rail. This in itself is fine, because it's out of the way and well protected. But by necessity, the fill pipe, located on the driver's side, is extremely long and almost horizontal. And because of this, it seems to take forever to fill the tank. Owners will have to make sure that station attendants really fill the tank, because most of them have a tendency to assume that the tank is full when gas begins to slosh out on the ground. And this happens constantly as the Wagoneer's tank is being filled. While we're on the minus side, we'll mention the compass that comes as standard equipment on all Wagoneers. This can be a very useful accessory in a vehicle such as this, and although it was accurate as near as we could tell, it was designed in such a way as to make it a nuisance during night driving. The compass light is within the unit and not shielded at all. As a result, the light shines in the driver's eyes. A perfect reflection of the compass is thrown up on the windshield, and since the light is behind the compass dial, the dial isn't illuminated and can't be read from the driver's seat. We also felt the brakes could be improved a bit. During the course of our rough country tests, we ended up on what must have been a wagon trail used by the original 49ers. It was about 50 miles long and took us up and down several mountains, through dry washes, and across a couple of stretches where the road disappeared completely. We didn't break any speed records getting through this stretch, but we didn't waste any time either, and several times we had to stop to let the brakes cool down before we could continue. On pavement, we found that they faded rather quickly. On the 0 to 60 mph stops during our brake tests. Also, when the brakes got hot, they had a tendency to lock up suddenly, and this was accompanied by swerving. Pedal pressures were neither too heavy nor too light with power assist, and didn't require any getting used to. Next to the new engine, the most significant engineering advancement on the test car was the independent front suspension layout. Away, it resembles the famous Mercedes-Benz unit. Basically, it's a single pivot swing axle, but where Mercedes uses a pivot point several inches below the axle's longitudinal axis, Jeep pivots it right on the center line. Mercedes uses the low pivot to keep camber changes at the wheel to a minimum. Because the Jeep unit is used at the front, it naturally contains steering knuckles at each end, and in normal operation, there are no camber changes at the wheel. So, in effect, although it's basically a swing axle, the steering knuckles allow it to operate just like a full independent system. The axle is the lower control arm and works with a shorter upper control arm, which is tied into a torsion bar at its inner pivot point. The Wagoneer is also available with the more conventional rigid front axle and semi-elliptic leaf spring system. Two-wheel drive models use a tubular axle and leaf spring system or a swing axle with torsion bars. We would definitely recommend the independent layout and feel that its added advantages are worth every penny of the extra cost, approximately $160. The rear suspension is conventional, with rigid axle and semi-elliptic springs. The springs are 4-leaf with an additional top half-leaf to prevent spring windup. The Boulevard ride is surprisingly smooth and not at all choppy. In two-wheel drive, the handling characteristics are quite a bit different from those of four-wheel drive. The car seems to heel over suddenly in corners and doesn't feel completely stable. This is, no doubt, caused by the amount of negative caster present in the front wheels, a necessity since directional stability increases with negative caster in front-wheel drive vehicles, just the opposite of rear-wheel drive vehicles. With the front wheels engaged in four-wheel drive, the Wagoneer corners very well, and directional stability is excellent. In the rough stuff, the independent front suspension really comes into its own. Traction is greatly improved, and it's almost impossible to get the vehicle in a position where one of the front wheels is off the ground. With limited slip differentials front and rear, the Wagoneer would be able to keep pulling even with one or more wheels off the ground. But try as we did, we couldn't get it into this position. With a straight front axle, it's a fairly common occurrence in rough country. We maneuvered through quite a few exceptionally rough stretches that would have jarred our teeth loose if it hadn't been for the front suspension. To check out the pulling, power. We took the Wagoneer where the soil was loose and sandy and went as far as we could in two-wheel drive. When it bogged down, we engaged the front wheels and the Wagoneer kept right on going. The only time we ever lost traction completely was on a real steep grade, no road, where the ground was covered with loose shale. The fact that we could go just about anywhere wasn't so surprising, because this is what you should be able to expect with 4WD. What surprised us was that we were able to do it with an automatic transmission. The transfer case is operated by shifting a single two-position floor-mounted lever. This can be accomplished whether the car is moving or standing still. A light mounted under the dash and right above the lever indicates when 4WD is engaged. A lot of quality has been built into these vehicles, and like their military forebears, they look as if they're built to last and last. The interiors are finished in tasteful colors and materials that belie the car's utilitarian purpose. 6 good-sized passengers can be carried in complete comfort with plenty of hip, head, and leg room available for everyone. There is also plenty of car.
In the grand pantheon of American rivalries, some are etched in stone: Yankees versus Red Sox, Coke versus Pepsi, Ford versus Chevrolet. But sometimes the most intense, most personal rivalries are fought between members of the same family. Imagine the Indianapolis Colts playing the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. Peyton versus Eli, Manning and Manning. A clash of titans from the same bloodline for the ultimate prize. It could have happened, but likely never will. Yet this exact scenario played out decades ago, not on a football field, but on the sun-baked boulevards and gritty drag strips of America. This is the story of two brothers in arms, born of the same General Motors of body chassis, but forged in the fires of a fierce internal competition. In one corner, the Oldsmobile 4-4- to W30, the established champion, the darling of the automotive press, a car lauded for its balanced performance, sophisticated engineering, and handsome, muscular looks. It was the thinking man's muscle car. In the other corner, the challenger, the big GS 455 Stage 1. Representing GM's most upscale and conservative division, the GS was often seen as the gentleman's muscle car, a wolf in finely tailored sheep's clothing. For years, BIC had played second fiddle in the performance wars, but by 1970, they had a secret weapon, an engine that produced more torque than any other American production car, a monstrous V8 that could and would humble the mightiest names on the street. This was a sibling rivalry from an era when the divisions of General Motors competed more with each other than they did with Ford, Chrysler, or AMC. By the time upscale BIC finally challenged Olds for the throne, the golden age of the muscle car was already in its twilight. But for one brief, glorious period, these two automotive brothers went head-to-head in a battle for supremacy, a contest of engineering prowess and brand pride that created two of the greatest muscle cars ever built. The seeds of conflict. To understand this rivalry, we have to go back to its genesis, a moment sparked by a third brother, the 1964 Pontiac GTO, when the brilliant John Z. DeLorean famously dropped a big engine into a mid-size car. He didn't just create a new market segment. He threw down a gauntlet to his corporate cousins. Oldsmobile was the first to answer. Just a few months later, they dropped a 400 cubic inch, 4-barrel, dual exhaust V8 into their stylish Cutlass to create the 4x2. BIC, not wanting to be left out, joined the party within a year with its Grand Sport, or GS. But right from the start, BIC played by its own rules. To get around GM's strict 400 cubic inch displacement limit for its body cars, they employed a bit of marketing. Sleight of hand. The 1965 GS was badged as a 400, but under the hood beat the heart of a 401 cubic inch nailhead V8, a technical violation of the corporate edict. Through the mid to late 60s, as GM rolled out its new, more curvaceous body designs, the hierarchy was clear. The Pontiac GTO was the undisputed king of the streets, the pop culture icon. The Oldsmobile 4-4-2 was its more refined, better handling brother, a car praised for its poise and engineering. The BIC GS, meanwhile, remained a subtle, more relaxed machine, not yet considered a top-tier contender in the horsepower wars. But behind the scenes at BIC, engineers were waiting, biding their time for the corporate landscape to change. The Titans are unleashed, 1970. That change came in 1970. GM finally did away with its 400 cubic inch limit, and the floodgates opened. BIC was ready. Fresh off the public relations success of the 1969 Opel GT, which had brought incredible traffic to their showrooms, BIC knew it needed a true halo car for its Skylark line. As an internal BIC engineering report noted, the increase in showroom floor traffic when the GT went on display early in April was almost unbelievable. Some BIC dealers reported 5,000 people through their showrooms in one weekend. BIC's first shot across the bow was the GSX, a visually loud package with bold stripes and spoilers designed to compete with the likes of the Judge GTO and other mod muscle cars. But when talk came to shove, it wasn't the graphics that gave the GS its legendary street cred. It was the engine option at its heart, the 455 Stage 1. This V8 was an engineering marvel, underrated by the factory at 360 horsepower. But producing an earth-shattering 510 pound-feet of torque, the highest torque rating of any American production engine at the time, a record that would stand for decades. As Mike Bivens, owner of a pristine 71 Olds 4-4-to-W30, concedes, the BIC was a giant killer. It's the car that beat the Hemi Cuda. Suddenly, the quiet brother had the biggest voice at the table. Oldsmobile, meanwhile, refined its own potent 455 engine with the W30 package, featuring a high-lift camshaft, aluminum intake manifold, and forced-air induction through its distinctive twin-scooped hood. The battle lines were drawn, the showdown, and the last gasp. The rivalry between the Olds and the BIC would be tragically short-lived. A storm was gathering on the horizon. Car insurance rates for high-performance vehicles were becoming astronomical. More ominously, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, established in December 1970, was enacting immediate restrictions on leaded premium fuel. Stricter regulations were coming. For the 1971 model year, both Olds and BIC were forced to lower the compression ratio on their top-tier W30 and Stage 1 engines, dropping from a potent 10.5 to 1 to a more emissions-friendly 8.5 to 1. They also had to comply with a new mandate to switch from optimistic SAE gross horsepower reporting to more realistic SAE net figures. It was in this environment that Motor Trend magazine conducted its now famous comparison. In the October 1970 issue, AB Schumann tested the 1971 models. A BIC GS 455 Stage 1 narrowly edged out a prototype 4-4-2W30 equipped with a 4-speed manual, running from 0-60 in 6.5 seconds to the old 6.6. But then Schumann asked for an automatic W30 to test the effects of its specific torque converter and valve timing. The result was stunning. The automatic olds blew the doors off its rivals, clocking a 6.1 second 0-60 run. A year later, for a June 1972 comparison entitled Sayonara Supercar, the tables turned again. By this time, the Hemi Cuda was already gone. Schumann wrote, "The amazing thing, considering all that's happened just in the area of emissions controls, is that a car that runs like the GS Stage 1 could still exist. In this final showdown, the 1972 BIC GS Stage 1 proved its mettle. It was faster than the manual GTO and, crucially, faster than the 1972 W30 automatic, beating its sibling rival by a significant 0.8 seconds in the 0-60 sprint and by 0.4 seconds and 5 miles per hour in the quarter mile. This final victory for BIC was made possible only by a fluke of history. A 1971 United Auto Workers strike had delayed the introduction of GM's new, heavier, and less potent Colonnade bodies by one model year, giving these last true muscle cars a one-year stay of execution. Driving these cars today is like stepping back in time. The Oldsmobile, with its organic fuselage surfacing and large split grille, feels substantial. Those gigantic golden scoops on the W30 hood make the car feel massive from behind the wheel. The BIC, by contrast, is more sublime. Its side surfacing is more creased, creating an abstract Coke bottle shape, and its twin ram air intakes are subtle, almost elegant. Inside, both cars have their quirks. The steering has more play than a kindergarten gym, and the tachometers are difficult to read. But fire them up, and all is forgiven. The W30 starts with a sharp bark, while the Stage 1 needs a bit of throttle. Both engines deliver their power in a massive, mid-range surge with a NASCAR growl that would do any modern car proud. The BIC feels slightly quicker, with less squat and tighter body control, a testament to its refined suspension, but this vitality was a fleeting ghost. Just a year after that final Motor Trend test, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries staged their first oil embargo. Gas prices soared, and the idea of feeding a V8 that returned single-digit miles per gallon became untenable. The muscle car was effectively dead. The 4-4-2 became just an option package again in 1972, and Dr. Oldsmobile's high compression magic was gone. Today, these are Body Brothers stand as monuments to a bygone era. They were the last of the truly great GM muscle cars, the final products of a time when divisional engineers had the freedom to chase performance above all else. The Oldsmobile 442 W30 remains the epitome of a balanced, well-engineered supercar, and the BIC GS 455 Stage 1, the torque-laden beast from the Doctor's Car division, earned its place in the history books as one of the most fearsome street machines ever built. In the end, the debate over which was truly better is academic. They were sibling rivals, yes, but they were also brothers in arms, standing together as the last, glorious.
For decades, the name Jeep had been synonymous with rugged, no-nonsense utility. Willys and later Kaiser Jeep had meticulously crafted vehicles built strictly for function, for conquering terrain where paved roads dared not venture. Their offerings were the stalwarts of farmers, adventurers, and military personnel, vehicles of almost stark functionality, designed to get the job done, no matter how arduous. However, with the introduction of the 1963 Jeep Wagoneer, Willys fundamentally altered this long-standing perception, adding an entirely new dimension to their venerable lineup. This vehicle was more than just an evolution. It was a revolution, a paradigm shift in the world of four-wheel drive. Bridging two worlds, the birth of the multi-purpose vehicle. Up until the Wagoneer's debut, the legions of four-wheel drive enthusiasts, a dedicated and growing cohort, faced a persistent dilemma. Their passion for off-road exploration necessitated a garage with two distinct occupants, a conventional daily driver for the mundane commute, and a specialized off-roader for weekend adventures. While traditional Jeeps and other 4x4s were peerless for traversing cow trails or navigating uncharted deserts, their inherent design often rendered them slow, cramped, and uncomfortable for extended freeway cruising. It was a common sight to witness true four-wheeling aficionados towing their trail rigs to the very point where the modern highway yielded to the beckoning backcountry. The 1963 Jeep Wagoneer promised to eliminate this necessity, offering a singular vehicle equally at home, navigating congested city streets, cruising effortlessly on the freeway, or tackling the most formidable off-road challenges. It was, in essence, the genesis of what we now recognize as the sport utility vehicle, SUV. Luxuries unveiled. A departure from utilitarian roots. The Wagoneer, in its most comprehensively equipped form, was a revelation of comfort and convenience. For a 4x4, our test vehicle was a testament to this new philosophy, loaded with an impressive array of features that were groundbreaking for its class. Power steering transformed the previously laborious task of maneuvering a heavy 4x4 into a fingertip affair. Power brakes offered superior stopping power and reduced driver fatigue. The presence of an automatic transmission further underscored its daily driver aspirations, providing a smooth, effortless driving experience previously unheard of in a rugged utility vehicle. Beyond these major advancements, the Wagoneer also sported an independent front suspension, a radio for entertainment, a heater for comfort in adverse weather, and a host of other minor accessories that elevated the overall experience. One small, but highly significant accessory that speaks volumes about its thoughtful design were the worn hubs installed on the front wheels. These simple devices, activated by a simple twist of the wrist, allowed the driver to cut out the front wheels when operating in two-wheel drive. This ingenious feature significantly reduced drivetrain drag, translating directly into better fuel economy and reduced wear and tear on the front axle components. Practical considerations that truly set the Wagoneer apart as a versatile, everyday vehicle. The Tornado 230, an engineering marvel under the hood. Under the Wagoneer's hood lay another testament to Kaiser Jeep's forward-thinking engineering, the recently introduced Tornado 230 inline-6 engine. This power plant was not just an upgrade, it was a statement. At the time of its introduction, the Tornado 230 held the distinction of being the only single overhead cam, OHC engine produced in America. Its successful deployment by Kaiser Jeep hinted at a potential shift in automotive engineering trends, prompting speculation that other domestic manufacturers might eventually follow suit. This innovative inline-6 boasted an aluminum head, a robust 8.5:1 compression ratio, and was fed by a two-barrel carburetor. With a displacement of 3.8 liters, its horsepower was conservatively rated at 140 SAE gross at 4,000 RPM. The engine's relatively long stroke-to-bore ratio proved particularly advantageous, bringing its peak torque of 210 lb-ft in at a remarkably low 1,700 RPM. This low-end torque characteristic meant the Tornado 230 would truly buckle down and pull when faced with rough, slow-going conditions off-road, providing the grunt needed for formidable obstacles. Conversely, its high horsepower peaking speed ensured the Wagoneer could effortlessly keep pace with highway traffic, with ample reserves for confident passing maneuvers. The power delivery was notably smooth, and despite its OHC design, this engine operated with impressive quietness, further enhancing the Wagoneer's newfound refinement. Drivetrain versatility, tailored for every need. The power from the Tornado 230 was seamlessly transferred through a Borg-Warner 3-speed automatic transmission. In our test vehicle, this automatic was paired with a single range transfer case, channeling power to both the front and rear axles. For those who preferred more direct control, models equipped with a 3-speed manual transmission benefited from a dual range transfer case, offering both high and low gearing for enhanced off-road capability. Furthermore, two-wheel drive variants of the Wagoneer could be optioned with a 3-speed manual overdrive transmission, catering to those prioritizing highway efficiency. Our test car, with its automatic setup, featured the standard 3.73:1 axle ratio, while manual transmission-equipped Wagoneers typically ran a 4.09 rear axle ratio, optimized for their more rugged, work-oriented applications. Surprising performance. More than just a utility vehicle. For a vehicle of its type and size, the Wagoneer's acceleration was remarkably lively, comparing very favorably to many passenger cars of its era. On the test track at Riverside Raceway, it achieved a verified top speed of 90 mph, a truly impressive feat for a 4x4. Its performance in the standing quarter mile clocked in at a respectable 20.5 seconds, reaching a speed of 68 meters. From a standing start, acceleration runs revealed its surprising quickness. 0 to 30 mph in 4.6 seconds, 0.45 meters in 8.8 seconds, and 0.60 meters in 16.1 seconds. These figures were achieved without forced shifts, allowing the automatic transmission to do its work as designed. Maximum speeds at automatic shift points were 31 Mph at 4,000 RPM in first gear and 51 1 at 3,800 RPM in second, showcasing the engine's broad power band and the transmission's effective gearing. Fuel economy and the quirky tank, the Wagoneers. Immediate popularity meant that Kaiser Jeep was selling every unit it could produce, with a substantial backlog of orders. This demand unfortunately limited our test time, preventing us from conducting our usual comprehensive fuel consumption tests. Nevertheless, our observations yielded promising results. Normal city and freeway driving consistently delivered figures in the 14 to 18 mpg range. For steady, legal limit highway cruising, the Wagoneer could even achieve an impressive 21 or 22 mph. As expected, in rough backcountry with all four wheels engaged and pulling, the efficiency dropped to a still respectable 10 to 14 mph. Equipped with a generous 20-gallon fuel tank, this translated to an operating range of anywhere from 200 miles in extreme conditions to well over 400 miles on the open highway, all on readily available regular-grade gasoline. However, our few complaints, with the Wagoneer largely centered around its fuel tank. While strategically placed, a long, narrow tank nestled between the rear drive shaft and the curbside frame rail, ensuring it was out of the way and well protected, its design created an inconvenient refueling process. The fill pipe, located on the driver's side, was by necessity extremely long and almost horizontal. This unusual configuration meant that filling the tank seemed to take forever. Owners would need to be vigilant, as many station attendants would mistakenly assume the tank was full when gas began to slosh out, a frequent occurrence due to the fill pipe's angle, leading to underfilling. Minor annoyances, the compass, and braking performance. Another minor minus was the compass, a seemingly useful standard accessory for a vehicle designed for adventure. While generally accurate, its internal lighting presented a significant nuisance during night driving. The unshielded compass light would shine directly into the driver's eyes, simultaneously casting a perfect reflection of the compass onto the windshield. Compounding the issue, the light source was positioned behind the compass dial itself, leaving the dial unilluminated and therefore unreadable from the driver's seat. We also felt that the brakes, while adequate for daily use, could benefit from improvement under demanding conditions. During our extensive rough country tests, we traversed a challenging 50-mile stretch that resembled an ancient wagon trail, winding up and down mountains, through dry washes, and across sections where the road seemingly vanished. While we maintained a steady pace, the brakes frequently required cool-down periods before we could continue. On pavement, our brake tests revealed a tendency for them to fade rather quickly during 0 to 60 mph panic stops. Furthermore, when the brakes became hot, they exhibited a disconcerting tendency to lock up suddenly, often accompanied by a swerving motion. On the positive side, pedal pressures were well calibrated with the power assist, being neither too heavy nor too light, requiring no acclimatization for comfortable operation. Engineering innovation, the independent front suspension. Next to the groundbreaking Tornado 230 engine, the most significant engineering advancement on our test Wagoneer was its independent front suspension, IFS layout. This design bore a conceptual resemblance to the famous Mercedes-Benz unit of the era. Essentially, it employed a single pivot swing axle, but with a crucial difference. Where Mercedes typically utilized a pivot point several inches below the axle's longitudinal axis to minimize camber changes at the wheel, Jeep's design pivoted right on the center line. Because the Jeep unit was employed at the front, it naturally incorporated steering knuckles at each end. In normal operation, this design remarkably resulted in no camber changes at the wheel. Thus, while fundamentally a swing axle, the integration of steering knuckles allowed it to effectively operate like a full independent system. The axle itself served as the lower control arm, working in conjunction with a shorter upper control arm, which was cleverly tied into a torsion bar at its inner pivot point. For those preferring a more traditional setup, the Wagoneer was also available with a conventional rigid front axle paired with a semi-elliptic leaf spring system. Two-wheel drive models offered either a tubular axle with leaf springs or a swing axle with torsion bars. However, our testing emphatically led us to definitely recommend the independent layout, asserting that its myriad advantages, particularly in ride comfort and off-road capability, were worth every penny of the extra cost, approximately $160, a significant sum for the time. The rear suspension, by contrast, remained conventional, utilizing a rigid axle with semi-elliptic leaf springs. These springs featured a robust four-leaf design, augmented by an additional top half-leaf engineered to prevent spring wind-up under. Acceleration and braking. Handling dynamics, two-wheel versus four-wheel drive. On paved roads, the Wagoneer delivered a surprisingly smooth boulevard ride, devoid of the typical choppiness associated with utility vehicles. Its handling characteristics, however, exhibited a notable difference between two-wheel and four-wheel drive modes. In two-wheel drive, the vehicle tended to heel over suddenly in corners and felt less than completely stable. This behavior was, without doubt, attributable to the amount of negative caster present in the front wheels. A necessary compromise since directional stability in front-wheel drive vehicles, even when selectively engaged like this, increases, with negative caster, the opposite of rear-wheel drive vehicles. Yet, once the front wheels were engaged in four-wheel drive, the Wagoneer transformed. Cornering ability improved dramatically, and directional stability became excellent, providing a reassuring sense of control. Off-road prowess, where IFS truly shines. It was in the rough stuff where the independent front suspension truly came into its own. Traction was greatly improved, and it became almost impossible to maneuver the vehicle into a position where one of the front wheels lifted off the ground. While a vehicle equipped with limited slip differentials front and rear, which the Wagoneer could theoretically benefit from, would be able to maintain forward momentum even with multiple wheels off the ground, our exhaustive efforts to get this Wagoneer into such a predicament proved futile. This stands in stark contrast to vehicles with a straight front axle, where wheel lift in rough country is a fairly common occurrence. We navigated through numerous exceptionally rough stretches that, with a conventional solid axle, would have undoubtedly jarred our teeth loose. The IFS absorbed the punishment, offering a remarkably smooth and controlled ride even over formidable obstacles. To assess its sheer pulling power, we deliberately drove the Wagoneer into loose, sandy terrain, pushing its limits in two-wheel drive until it inevitably bogged down. Upon engaging the front wheels, the Wagoneer immediately found purchase and continued its relentless forward momentum. The only instance where we completely lost traction was on an extremely steep, unpaved grade covered with loose shale, a challenge that would humble most vehicles. The fact that the Wagoneer could venture almost anywhere was not entirely surprising. After all, that's the fundamental expectation of a 4WD vehicle. What truly surprised us was its ability to perform these feats with an automatic transmission, traditionally seen as less robust for serious off-roading. The transfer case operation was remarkably intuitive, managed by a single two-position, floor-mounted lever that could be shifted whether the car was moving or stationary. A small light, conveniently mounted under the dash just above the lever, provided clear indication when 4WD was engaged. Built to last, comfort, capacity, and enduring quality. A profound sense of quality was evident throughout these vehicles. Like their military forebears, they appeared to be built to endure, designed for longevity that would span decades. The interiors, a stark contrast to their utilitarian purpose, were finished in tastefully chosen colors and materials, belying the truck's rugged capabilities. 6 good-sized passengers could be accommodated in complete comfort, with ample hip, head, and legroom available for everyone. Beyond passenger comfort, the Wagoneer offered substantial cargo space, which could be further expanded by simply folding the rear seat flat, adding to its versatility as a family hauler or a workhorse. The 1963 Jeep Wagoneer was, and remains, a monumental vehicle in automotive history. It wasn't just a 4x4, it was the original blueprint for the modern SUV, expertly blending the rugged capability of a utility vehicle with unprecedented levels of comfort, convenience, and on-road refinement. Its innovative engineering, from the OHC Tornado 230 engine to the groundbreaking independent front suspension, marked a significant departure from tradition and laid the groundwork for a new category of vehicles that would, decades later,
Looking for a dependable SUV without breaking the bank? In this video, we're counting down the most reliable used SUVs to buy in 2025. Vehicles that deliver top-tier dependability, everyday versatility, and serious value. Whether you need a spacious family hauler, an adventure-ready ride, or just peace of mind on your daily commute, these used SUVs have earned high marks in J.D. Power's predicted reliability scores. We're talking about models that stay out of the shop and on the road, saving you time, money, and headaches. Stick around as we reveal which used SUVs are truly built to last. 2017 Toyota 4Runner. If you plan to venture off the beaten path, the 2017 Toyota 4Runner is worth considering. Not only is it available with four-wheel drive, but it's also tough enough to trek through rocky terrain and muddy trails. Unfortunately, it has a firm ride on pavement, and its list of advanced safety features is very limited. A rear-view camera is standard, but there are few other standard safety features. Popular safety features like adaptive cruise control and forward collision warning are not available, even as options. If you purchase a 4Runner that's part of the brand's Certified Pre-Owned (CPO) program, Toyota provides a 1-year, 12,000-mile limited warranty. The automaker also extends the powertrain warranty to 7 years or 100,000 miles. 2018 Kia Sorento. The 2018 Kia Sorento is one of the best mid-size SUVs of its time. It has a roomy cabin with premium materials, and its smooth ride makes it excellent for daily driving. On the downside, there's not much third-row seating space. Cargo space also comes up short compared to the competition. The Sorento is easy to live with from day to day. From its easy-to-use infotainment system to its impressive fuel economy, there's a lot to like. It also keeps engine and outside noise at bay. Add in top-notch reliability, and it's easy to see why the Sorento is a popular choice. 2019 Hyundai Kona. Subcompact SUVs are great for running errands around town, and the 2019 Hyundai Kona is one of the best picks in the segment. It has lively driving dynamics and excellent safety ratings. Unsurprisingly, this capable hauler won our 2019 Best Subcompact SUV for the Money Award. The base trim has features including Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, Lane Keep Assist, and driver attention monitoring, and you may be able to find models with optional upgrades such as navigation, a head-up display, and wireless device charging. Hyundai's certified pre-owned warranties are among the best in the business. CPO models come with up to 10 years or 100,000 miles of powertrain coverage. But with such a high predicted reliability score, you might not have much need for it. 2022 Buick Encore. Though it's not the best choice if you have a need for speed, the 2022 Buick Encore has one of the calmest rides and most stylish cabins. There's no shortage of cabin space, and high seats give this Buick a commanding view of the road. A high predicted reliability score sweetens the pot. Standard features include a 7-inch touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and a Wi-Fi hotspot. That said, standard safety features are few and far between, and engine power is modest. Models with a certified pre-owned warranty come with up to 6 years or 100,000 miles of powertrain coverage, in addition to a 12-month 12,000-mile bumper-to-bumper warranty. 2022 Lincoln Nautilus. The 2022 Lincoln Nautilus may not handle curves as well as some of its more athletic classmates, but it has a great predicted reliability score and several other standout strengths. This luxury mid-size SUV treats passengers to a deluxe cabin and delivers impressive cargo room for the class. 2 engines are available, and both provide capable acceleration. The Nautilus's relaxed ride makes it a pleasant commuter vehicle. Standard features include dual-zone automatic climate control, a 13.2-inch touchscreen, and blind spot monitoring. Certified pre-owned Lincoln vehicles come with a 6-year 100,000-mile limited warranty, starting from when the new car warranty begins. 2019 Hyundai Santa Fe. Few reliable mid-size SUVs are as well-rounded as the 2019 Hyundai Santa Fe. From its capable engine choices and balanced road manners to its user-friendly tech and excellent safety score, there's a lot to pull shoppers in. The 2-row Santa Fe and 3-row Santa Fe XL have unique strengths. The 2-row variant has standard driver aids such as blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, and adaptive cruise control. That said, base engine performance is lackluster, and 3rd-row space in the XL model is subpar. Certified pre-owned Hyundai models come with the remainder of the original 5-year 60,000-mile limited warranty and the rest of the 10-year 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. 2020 Kia Soul. There is more passenger and cargo space in the 2020 Kia Soul than you might expect from a subcompact SUV. Its boxy design yields an airy cabin with ample headroom and plenty of storage room. Both rows offer plenty of legroom, even for taller passengers. Standard features include a 7-inch touchscreen, Android Auto, and Apple CarPlay. The available turbocharged engine offers plenty of gusto, but the base engine is more dependable than powerful. Fuel economy is about average for the segment. A certified pre-owned Soul comes with a 5-year 60,000-mile basic warranty and a 10-year 100,000-mile powertrain warranty, effective from the date of the original warranty. 2021 BMW X4. The 2021 X4 is worth a close look, especially if you value agile handling, a high predicted reliability score, and rapid acceleration. However, it has a bit less cargo room than some competitors, so it's not the best pick if utility is paramount. This luxury compact SUV comes with standard features such as a 10.25-inch touchscreen, navigation, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and tri-zone automatic climate control. All models have driver aids including rain-sensing windshield wipers, front and rear parking sensors, and adaptive cruise control. BMW covers certified pre-owned models with a 1-year warranty with unlimited miles after the original 4-year 50,000-mile warranty expires. 2019 Hyundai Tucson. The 2019 Hyundai Tucson is a compact SUV with a serene cabin and a poised ride. It comes standard with desirable features such as Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and driver attention monitoring. You may be able to find a model equipped with luxurious upgrades that include a heated steering wheel, leather upholstery, and heated front and rear seats. This Hyundai has a few shortcomings, including meager engine power, below-average fuel efficiency, and subpar cabin quality. It also has less cargo room than other models in its class. Certified pre-owned Tucson models come with a powertrain warranty lasting up to 10 years or 100,000 miles. That, along with an impressive predicted reliability score, adds peace of mind. 2020 BMW X6. Despite lofty ownership costs and below-average cargo space, the redesigned 2020 BMW X6 offers more than just a top-tier predicted reliability score. With potent powertrains and world-class cabin quality, the X6 aims to impress drivers and passengers alike. The cabin offers ample room to stretch out, making it a nice place to spend time. All models have attractive standard features such as navigation, a 12.3-inch touchscreen, heated front seats, and a panoramic moonroof. On the downside, the infotainment features take some getting used to. BMW's CPO program covers buyers for 1 year with unlimited mileage after the 4-year 50,000-mile new vehicle warranty expires. 2022 Buick Encore GX. Buick introduced the Encore GX with the 2020 model. This subcompact SUV provides solid room for passengers and cargo, and its gentle ride makes it a pleasant daily driver. Base models offer a generous selection of standard equipment, including an 8-inch touchscreen, a Wi-Fi hotspot, and Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. However, engine power comes up short, as does the number of standard safety features. Despite those shortcomings, it earns respectable marks for predicted reliability. If you purchase a vehicle that's part of Buick's CPO program, you'll get coverage lasting 6 years or 100,000 miles from the start of the original warranty, plus a 1-year 12,000-mile bumper-to-bumper limited warranty that kicks in after the new car coverage expires. Thanks for watching. If you're in the market for a used SUV in 2025, choosing one with a proven reliability record can save you thousands in the long run. These models aren't just affordable. They're smart, durable, and trusted by real drivers year after year. Which SUV on our list would you choose? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more expert car buying tips, rankings, and reviews. Until next time, drive safe.
Before the Corvette became the fire-breathing mid-engine ZR1 monster we know today. Before it became America's undisputed sports car legend, it had to prove it even deserved to exist. And that journey, it started here, with one car. This is EX87, the 1955 Chevrolet Corvette testbed that didn't just try a V8 for size, it helped save the entire Corvette line from extinction. It's a rolling experiment, a mechanical gamble, and a historical icon now heading to auction. A sports car in crisis. In 1953, Chevrolet launched the Corvette with high hopes and dreamy curves. It was America's answer to the sleek roadsters coming out of Europe, low, sculpted, and futuristic. But there was one big problem. Under the hood, a mild-mannered 150-horsepower Blue Flame inline-6. Paired with a 2-speed Power Glide automatic transmission, it sounded like a sports car but didn't move like one. Performance-wise, it was all show and very little go. By 1954, Corvette sales had plummeted. The car was beautiful, but the automotive world wanted more than just a looker. Rumors swirled inside GM. Should they cancel the Corvette? Write it off as a nice idea? That didn't pan out? The Corvette was teetering on the edge of oblivion. EX87, the experimental savior. Then came Maury Rose, a seasoned engineer and a 3-time winner of the Indy 500. He wasn't just a racer, he was the man behind Chevy's revolutionary small-block V8 engine. Rose knew the Corvette didn't need to be scrapped. It just needed power. So in 1954, GM took an unsold Corvette chassis and turned it into a secret weapon. They designated it EX87. This wasn't just an engine swap. Rose dropped in a hand-built 307 cubic inch V8 prototype and swapped in a manual transmission for full driver control. He reworked the suspension, upgraded the brakes, and reinforced the frame. This was no longer a showroom cruiser. It was a track-bound missile. Then came Zora Arkus Duntov, the man history would call the father of the Corvette. Rose handed EX87 off to Zora, and he took it to GM's Arizona proving grounds and pushed it past a 160-mile Mahiri. Let's repeat that. 160 miles per hour in 1955. That wasn't just fast, that was revolutionary. The DNA of every Corvette since Duntov's. High-speed runs with EX87 proved what no executive memo ever could. The Corvette had potential, big potential. It wasn't just a fashion statement, it could perform. It could win. GM took notice, and in 1956, the Corvette officially came standard with a small block V8. That single decision reshaped the destiny of the American sports car forever, from the aggressive C2 Stingray to the wide-bodied brutality of the C3, to today's C8, ZR1 with a twin-turbo V8 mounted midship. They all carry the DNA of EX87. Not just a showpiece, built for war. X87 isn't just a pretty survivor, it's a warrior. It's fiberglass. Body may be replacement 1955 spec, but the chassis, the spine, is the original test mule. This car still bears the marks of a life spent under stress. Mounting points for test gear, tow hooks, and reinforced components. The engine today? A 327 cubic inch V8 replacement, still a small block, still snarling with intent. Paired to a 2-speed power glide, it reflects the constant evolution EX87 underwent throughout its test life. It's seen multiple setups, multiple powertrains, all in service of perfecting the Corvette formula. This wasn't just a development tool, it was the tool that brought the Corvette into the performance age. Duntov's legacy on 4 wheels. Zora Arkus Duntov was more than an engineer. He was a believer. He didn't just want the Corvette to compete, he wanted it to dominate. And AX87 was his test bed, his hammer, his blueprint for turning a good idea into a great car. His 160 Matarafe run in AX87 wasn't a stunt. It was a statement. To GM executives, "Give me the reins and I'll build you something legendary." That moment changed the internal narrative at GM. Duntov's vision became reality, and the Corvette was saved. Thanks to him, and thanks to this car. A survivor with a story. Today, EX87 isn't just a restored classic, it's a documented chapter of Corvette lore. It's lived multiple lives, changed hands, changed engines, and even changed skin. But the bones are still there. The same frame that thundered across the desert in 1955 is here, ready to roll again. Even more incredible? It's been in the same private collection for 57 years. That's longer than most people own their homes. It comes with period correct documentation, engineering memos, and vintage photos, offering a rare glimpse into the early Corvette development process. This is the kind of car you expect to find behind museum glass. But instead, it's crossing the auction block, giving someone the chance to own history. What's it worth? Historic Corvettes like this don't just show up often, and when they do, collectors take notice. Given the lineage, the documentation, the connection to Duntov and Rose, this isn't just another 55 Vetta. This is EX87. That makes it practically priceless. The current bid may hit 6 figures or more, but the real value lies in what it represents. The rebirth of American performance. Conclusion. A legend at auction. EX87 is more than fiberglass and horsepower. It's a milestone. A machine that changed the fate of one of the most iconic car lines in history. Without it, the Corvette might have been a 2-year footnote in GM's past. Instead, it became a 7-decade juggernaut, and EX87 was the spark that lit the fuse. Now, it could be yours. Will you let history pass you by, or will you?
Before the Chevrolet Corvette evolved into the fire-breathing, mid-engine ZR1 monster we marvel at today. Before it ascended to its undisputed throne as America's quintessential sports car legend. It first had to fight for its very right to exist. It had to prove its worth, its potential, its destiny. And that arduous pivotal journey, it began here with one singular, unassuming car. This is EX87. The 1955 Chevrolet Corvette test bed that didn't merely try a V8 engine for size, It was the mechanical crucible that helped snatch the entire Corvette line from the precipice of extinction. It is a rolling experiment, a bold mechanical gamble, and an irreplaceable historical icon now poised to cross the auction block, offering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a piece of automotive salvation. The year was 1953. Chevrolet, brimming with optimism and a desire to capture the burgeoning American enthusiasm for European-style roadsters, unveiled the Corvette. Its fiberglass body boasted undeniably dreamy curves, a low-slung, sculpted profile, and a futuristic aesthetic that seemed to promise a new era of American motoring. The public was captivated by its looks, but there was one colossal problem, a fundamental flaw that threatened to unravel the entire dream. Underneath those sleek, seductive lines, the Corvette harbored a rather mild-mannered heart, a 150 horsepower, blue flame inline-six engine. And to compound the performance deficit, this engine was exclusively paired with a leisurely 2-speed Powerglide automatic transmission. The result? It sounded like a sports car with its distinctive exhaust note, but it certainly didn't move like one. Performance-wise, it was all show and very, very little go. By 1954, the harsh reality of the market had set in. Corvette sales plummeted dramatically. While the car was undeniably beautiful, the American automotive consumer, increasingly sophisticated and performance-hungry, demanded more than just a pretty face. Whispers began to circulate within the hallowed halls of General Motors. Should they simply cancel the Corvette? Should they write it off as a noble idea that simply didn't pan out? A costly experiment destined for the scrap heap of automotive history? The Corvette was teetering precariously on the edge of oblivion, its future hanging by a thread. Then, a pivotal figure emerged from the depths of GM's engineering prowess, Maury Rose. A seasoned engineer with a keen understanding of automotive dynamics, Rose was also a legendary figure in American motorsport, a 3-time winner of the prestigious Indianapolis 500. But his true genius extended beyond the racetrack. He was the brilliant mind behind Chevrolet's revolutionary small-block V8 engine, a power plant that would go on to define American performance for decades. Rose possessed an unwavering conviction. The Corvette didn't need to be scrapped. It simply needed power. It needed a heart that matched its bold, sporting exterior. So, in 1954, with the Corvette program facing imminent cancellation, GM took an unsold Corvette chassis, a blank slate, and transformed it into a secret weapon, a clandestine project known only by its designation, X87. This wasn't merely a simple engine swap. Rose embarked on a comprehensive overhaul. He meticulously dropped in a hand-built 307 cubic inch V8 prototype, a raw, untamed version of what would become the iconic small block. Crucially, he replaced the lethargic Powerglide with a proper manual transmission, granting the driver full, uncompromised control over the burgeoning power. But his work didn't stop there. He meticulously reworked the suspension to handle the increased forces, upgraded the brakes for improved stopping power, and reinforced the frame to withstand the rigors of high-speed testing. This was no longer a showroom cruiser. It was being meticulously transformed into a track-bound missile, purpose-built for extreme performance evaluation. The stage was set for another legend to enter the fray, Zora Arcus Duntov, the brilliant Belgian engineer whose relentless pursuit of performance would earn him the revered title of the father of the Corvette, was handed the keys to EX87 by Maury Rose. Duntov, a man driven by speed and an unshakable belief in the Corvette's potential, took EX87 to GM's sprawling Arizona proving grounds. What transpired next was nothing short of revolutionary. Duntov pushed EX87 to its absolute limits, achieving speeds that were simply unheard of for an American production car of that era. He pushed it past 160 miles per hour. Let that sink in for a moment. 160 miles per hour in 1955. This wasn't just fast. It was a seismic shift in the perception of what an American sports car could be. It was a declaration, a thunderous statement that echoed through the automotive world. Duntov's high-speed runs with EX87 weren't just thrilling demonstrations of raw power, they were irrefutable proof. They achieved what no executive memo, no marketing presentation, no theoretical discussion ever could. They unequivocally demonstrated the Corvette's true, untapped potential. It wasn't merely a stylish fashion statement. It could perform, it could compete, and crucially, it could win. GM executives, witnessing this undeniable performance, took notice. Big notice. The decision was made. In 1956, a mere year after, X87's groundbreaking tests, the Chevrolet Corvette, officially came standard with a small block V8 engine. That single pivotal decision reshaped the destiny of the American sports car forever. From that moment forward, every subsequent iteration of the Corvette, from the aggressive sculpted lines of the C2 Stingray, to the wide-bodied brutality and raw power of the C3, all the way to today's cutting-edge C8 ZR1, with its twin-turbo V8 mounted midship, a configuration once unimaginable for a Corvette. They all carry the indelible DNA of AX87. This experimental mule was the progenitor, the foundational blueprint, for a lineage of performance that continues to captivate and thrill. EX87 isn't just a beautifully restored showpiece, it's a battle-scarred warrior, a survivor of countless punishing tests and modifications. While its vibrant fiberglass body may be a replacement 1955 spec, meticulously restored to period correctness, the very chassis, the structural spine of the vehicle, is the original test mule. This car still proudly bears the tangible marks of a life spent under immense stress. Custom mounting points for experimental test gear, robust tow hooks for recovery during rigorous trials, and strategically reinforced components that speak to its demanding development role. The engine residing within it today is a 327 cubic inch V8 replacement, still a small block, still snarling with the same raw intent that defined its purpose. Paired, interestingly, to a 2-speed Powerglide transmission, this configuration reflects the constant evolution and myriad setups EX87 underwent throughout its extensive test life. It saw multiple engine configurations, various powertrain pairings, all in the tireless service of perfecting the Corvette formula. This wasn't just a passive development tool. It was the active, dynamic instrument that propelled the Corvette into the performance age, transforming it from a stylish cruiser into a formidable contender. Zora Arkus Duntov was more than just an engineer. He was a visionary, a relentless believer in the Corvette's inherent potential. He didn't merely want the Corvette to compete, he envisioned it dominating. And EX87 was his personal testbed, his ultimate hammer, his living blueprint for transforming a promising idea into an automotive legend. His legendary 160 mph run in EX87 wasn't a mere stunt or a fleeting moment of bravado. It was a powerful, undeniable statement delivered directly to the GM executives. "Give me the reins," he implicitly declared, "and I will build you something truly legendary." That single moment, that visceral demonstration of capability, fundamentally altered the internal narrative at GM. Duntov's audacious vision began to materialize, and the Corvette, teetering on the brink, was unequivocally saved. All thanks to his unwavering belief, his engineering genius, and the tireless work performed by this very car. Today, EX87 isn't just a meticulously restored classic. It's a living, breathing chapter of Corvette lore. It has lived multiple lives, changed hands, seen various engine and transmission configurations, and even changed its exterior skin. Yet, the fundamental bones are still there. The very same frame that thundered across the Arizona desert at breakneck speeds in 1955 is here, remarkably preserved and ready to roll once more. Even more incredibly, this irreplaceable piece of history has resided in the same private collection for an astonishing 57 years. That's a tenure longer than most people own their homes, a testament to its previous owner's understanding of its profound significance. It comes accompanied by a treasure trove of period-correct documentation, original engineering memos, and rare vintage photos, offering an unparalleled, intimate glimpse into the earliest and most critical stages of the Corvette's development. Process. This is the kind of car you expect to find enshrined behind museum glass, a static monument to innovation. But instead, it's crossing the auction block, offering a fortunate individual the extraordinary chance to not just own history, but to possess the very vehicle that shaped it. So, what is a car like this truly worth? Historic Corvettes of this caliber, with such unimpeachable provenance, simply do not appear on the market often. And when they do, the world's most discerning collectors take immediate, intense notice. Given its direct lineage, the meticulous documentation confirming its identity, and its undeniable connection to two titans of automotive engineering, Maury Rose and Zora Arkus Duntov, this isn't just another 55 Vetta. This is the X87 that makes it, in a very real sense, practically priceless. While the current bidding may already be soaring into six figures and could easily climb far beyond, the true, immeasurable value lies not in its monetary figure, but in what it represents. The dramatic rebirth of American performance, the moment a struggling dream transformed into an automotive dynasty. EX87 is far more than mere fiberglass and horsepower. It is a pivotal milestone. A singular machine that irrevocably altered the fate of one of the most iconic and enduring car lines in automotive history. Without it, the Chevrolet Corvette might have been nothing more than a 2-year footnote in GM's vast and storied past. Instead, thanks to this experimental warrior, it became a 7-decade juggernaut, a symbol of American ingenuity and performance, that continues to push boundaries. EX87 was the spark that lit that magnificent fuse. Now, this irreplaceable piece of history could be yours. Will you let this extraordinary chapter of automotive lore simply pass you by? Or will you seize the opportunity to drive it home?
In 1958, Elvis still weighed under 200 pounds. The Bridge on the River Kwai ruled the box office, and kids suddenly worried Sputnik might be spying on their backyard adventures. Meanwhile, Ford Motor Company unveiled the most hyped car in its history, the Edsel. Promised to be a miracle of modern design, it was more than a car. It was supposed to be a revolution. This is the story of a chrome-plated dream that turned into an American punchline, of optimism, architecture, absurdity, and the car that launched 1,000 jokes. But to understand why the Edsel flopped so hard, we have to first understand the culture that created it. Los Angeles in the late 50s wasn't just a city, it was Tomorrowland with smog. Drive-through car washes looked like flying saucers. Gas stations resembled space stations. Diners, motels, and even bra stores were designed like they were about to blast off to Mars. Want breakfast? Drive to a restaurant shaped like a giant donut. Shopping for records? Head to a building that is a stack of records. This was the heyday of Googie architecture, a wild, neon-lit celebration of the jet age, born in LA and soon plastered across America. It screamed optimism, it oozed style. It had no chill whatsoever. At the center of this atomic age aesthetic was one thing everyone in post-war America adored: the car. Cars weren't just transportation, they were lifestyle, identity, and even romance on wheels. Ford knew that, and they wanted in, big time. Ford spent 2 years teasing it, promoting it like it was part Cadillac, part rocket ship, part magic. Carpet. Ads promised more you ideas. It was supposed to leapfrog GM's Buick, Oldsmobile, and Pontiac brands with power, style, and innovation. The Edsel debuted in 1957 as a 1958 model, and it turned heads. Just not in the way Ford hoped. Its now infamous horse-collar grille quickly earned comparisons not fit for polite company. The design was polarizing and not in a good way. One ad boldly declared, "The Edsel look is here to stay." It was in junkyards. Within a year, Ford had redesigned the grille. By 1960, they'd shrunk it to near invisibility, and just 3 years after its grand Hollywood-level debut, the Edsel was dead. But if there was one place where the Edsel almost made sense, it was Los Angeles. So we took a 1958 Edsel Ranger for a spin through the neon jungle of LA. Not our Edsel, of course. We rented one from a movie car supplier. Still, it roared to life like a champ, the 361 cubic inch V8 pumping out 400 lb-ft of torque. No power steering, no power brakes, just 2 tons of steel and a steering wheel the size of a manhole cover, making a 3-point turn in Beverly Hills. Felt like trying to wrestle a gorilla in a phone booth. We stopped for a dog at Tail the Pup, a roadside stand shaped like a giant hot dog that Orson Welles used to frequent. Then we rolled past the Capitol Records building, a circular office tower supposedly not shaped like a stack of vinyl records. Sure, and the White House was designed to resemble a coffee mug. Our Edsel had push-button shifting, a horizontal rolling. Dome speedometer and enough chrome to blind a satellite? It was weird. It was bold. It belonged. Cruising through vintage LA, we hit all the mid-century marvels. The Formosa Cafe, a 1920s gem turned 50s Hollywood hotspot, frequented by real stars like Lana Turner and her not-so-lucky boyfriend, Johnny Stompanato. Barney's Beanery, a Route 66 roadhouse turned beatnik hangout where James Dean once nursed a beer and Janis Joplin ordered her last chili. And the gas stations, like Jack Colker's Union 76, with its massive swooping canopy and Jetsons-worthy design. If you ignore the 6-a-gallon price on premium, it still feels like 1958. And finally, Norm's Coffee Shop on La Cienega. Designed in 1957 by Googie legends Armette and Davis, it's all neon glass and space-age swagger. The Edsel looked like it belonged there, at least until a Tesla pulled in next to us. Part 5. What really killed the Edsel? 9. Isaka to 11. So what really killed the Edsel? Was it the design, the economy, the quality? Try corporate politics. Ford's grand plan involved 3 shared vehicle platforms across 5 brands. But things started falling apart when engineer Earl McPherson made the 1958 Lincoln a unibody design, syncing plans for a higher-end Mercury. Then came Robert McNamara, Ford executive and future Secretary of Defense. He hated the Edsel and quietly gutted its budget. One day after its launch, he was promoted to Group Vice President. Shortly after, Edsel's future was whittled down to a redesigned grille for 1960. In short, Ford didn't just abandon the Edsel, they sabotaged it. Author Thomas E. Bonsall nailed it in Disaster in Dearborn. If Ford Motor Company management wasn't willing to invest several years of effort in the Edsel, they didn't deserve to succeed. And that, my friends, was our time-traveling cruise through the glittering chrome neon lights and rocket-fin dreams of 1958 Los Angeles, a city that didn't just embrace the future, it wrapped it in fluorescent lights, tiki torches, and flying saucer. Car washes. The Ford Edsel may be remembered today as a failure, but in many ways it was the perfect symbol of its era. Bold, flashy, overpromised, and misunderstood. It wasn't just a car, it was a rolling monument to a moment in American history when optimism wasn't just a feeling, it was a marketing strategy. Sure, the Edsel flamed out fast, but not before leaving tire tracks all over the pop culture highway. And Googie architecture? Though most of it faded under the gray skies of the 1960s and beyond, its spirit lives on. Every time you walk into a retro diner with a slanted roof, sip coffee under a neon sign shaped like Saturn, or catch a classic flick on Hollywood Boulevard, you're tapping into the goofy, glorious hopefulness of mid-century America. A time when the future looked like a spaceship and coffee cost a dime. Today, that optimism still lingers in the corners of LA, if you know where to look. The Tail o' the Pup, the Capitol Records Tower, Norm's Coffee Shop, they're not just places. They're living postcards from a time when we believed anything was possible, and style mattered just as much as substance. So next time you see a photo of the Edsel or drive past an old Googie building, don't just laugh at the quirks. Tip your cap, because these relics weren't just design experiments, they were dreams. And dreams, even the ones that stall out on the freeway of history, are what keep us moving forward. Thanks for riding shotgun on this nostalgic road trip. If you love this video and want more deep dives into automotive oddities, retro culture, or the stories behind the chrome, smash that like button, subscribe for more car culture content, and drop a comment sharing your favorite piece of 1950s design, car, building, or breakfast joint. Until next time, keep your tank full, your fins high, and your eyes on the open road. This is Bike and Car Saga, signing off from the driver's seat of history. Until next time, stay nostalgic, stay curious.
Hey gearheads and classic car enthusiasts, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're not just talking about muscle cars. We're delving into the very genesis of one of the greatest rivalries in automotive history. Look at these beauties. On my left, the iconic 1967 Ford Mustang GT390. And on my right, the equally legendary, freshly minted 1967 Chevrolet Camaro RS SS 350. This wasn't just another model year. This was the year. 1967 marked the beginning of a battle that would define American muscle for generations to come. Ford versus Chevy. Mustang versus Camaro. It's a rivalry with the same emotional pull as Mac versus PC, Coke versus Pepsi, Army versus Navy. And today, we're going back to round one of this epic showdown. But how did we get here? To truly appreciate this rivalry, we need to rewind a bit. The early 1960s saw the first wave of baby boomers coming of age. Market research was screaming one thing. These young buyers weren't interested in their parents' sedans. They wanted to express themselves. They wanted style. And crucially, they wanted it on a budget. The big three, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, all heard the message. To keep costs down, manufacturers leveraged their compact car platforms, initially introduced in 1960, to fight off the surge of imported small cars. Plymouth had the Valiant, Ford the Falcon. Chevrolet, ever the innovator, went with the more daring rear-engine, air-cooled Corvair. Now, the Corvair wasn't exactly a runaway success initially, with the Falcon outselling it significantly. However, something shifted. In mid-1960, the Corvair Monza arrived. By bolting in bucket seats and adding some sporty trim, GM accidentally stumbled upon what the boomers really wanted. The Monza quickly became the young person's cool car, accounting for 80% of Corvair sales by 1963. This success didn't go unnoticed. The 1964 Falcon-based Mustang and Valiant-based Barracuda were direct responses to the Monza's surprising popularity. Now, you might think GM would have been quick to respond to the emerging pony car segment. But it wasn't that simple. Chevrolet, design chief Irv Ribicki, had already floated the idea of a cut-rate personal coupe. Essentially, a shrunken Riviera for a Chevy budget. GM design boss Bill Mitchell liked the idea so much, he set up a secret studio in a warehouse, giving birth to Project XP836. Riding on the Chevy 2 platform, the clay model had proportions eerily similar to what the Mustang would eventually become. But Chevy boss Bunky Knudsen, looking at Chevy's already vast lineup, the Corvette, the Corvair Monza, the Chevy 2, the Chevelle, and a broad, full-size range, felt another new car was the last thing they needed or could afford. Can you blame him? They had the sporty Spectrum covered, or so they thought. Then the Mustang arrived, and it didn't just sell, it exploded. It became more popular than sex and chocolate combined, and sales of the Corvair Monza, Chevy's once-hot youth car, plunged by a third in 1964. Initially, GM brass were unimpressed, seeing it as an angular, unimaginative design. They were confident their sleek, Euro-styled 1965 Corvair replacement could hold its own. But when dealers signed 26,000 Mustang orders on the first day, and 100,000 units sold in just 4 months, Chevy had to swallow its pride. The green light was given. Development of a conventional front-engine, rear-drive competitor, codenamed F-Body, was fast-tracked. The mandate was clear. Make it longer, lower, wider, faster, and better in every single way. The secret warehouse project resumed with a vengeance. The Erzbarnest F-Car, which would become the Camaro, was designed to share its architecture with the 1968 Chevy 2 Nova replacement. This innovative design combined a unit body rear section bolted to a front stub frame via tuned rubber mounts. The result? The packaging efficiency of a unit body with the ride and powertrain isolation of a traditional body-on-frame car. And, for the first time at Chevy, computers were used to help tune the aerodynamics and suspension. Talk about cutting edge for 67! Dimensionally, the F-Car measured several inches longer and wider than the original Mustang. And initially, its engine. Offerings trumped the power of its closest Mustang rivals. Chevrolet offered 2 inline-6s and 3 small block V8s with various carb and exhaust setups. And then, in November 1966, came the big guns. A pair of 396 cube big block options. Chevy understood that the key to winning over the boomers was customization. The order sheet was staggering: 80 factory options and 40 dealer accessories. As the full 1966 launch date loomed, only one thing remained: a name for Chevy's Mustang killer. Panther, Nova, Chaparral, all were considered and rejected. After mining foreign language dictionaries, the name Camaro won the day. Chevy officially defined it as French slang for companion. Though I hear Ford had a different, more amusing definition: a type of sea shrimp. You gotta love the rivalry. Now, Detroit was a small town, and Ford had ample time to prepare for the Camaro's arrival. After cranking out 1 million Mustangs, their tooling was shot anyway. So, they decided to refresh and strengthen their champion. To stay ahead in the Power Wars, Ford added the formidable 390 big block option. But fitting that beast required stretching the front end by 2 inches and widening the car by 2.7 inches. They also widened the track by 2.5 inches and raised the front suspension's roll center, significantly improving handling. Interior space even increased marginally. Stylists preserved the original design elements but embellished them, stretching the hood, widening the grille, deepening the side scallops, and extending the fastback's roofline all the way to the rear. The 1967 Mustang was a more mature, more muscular version of its former self. So, how did the upstart Camaro fare against the million-strong Mustang? Initial impressions were mixed, primarily because Motor Trend ran their first driving impressions in December 1966, but with different authors at separate venues. No direct comparisons were made. The Mustang GT390, with its enlarged front anti-roll, bar and stiffened springs, was praised for its quieter ride and improved handling, though it remained a heavy understeerer. And that big block? It produced major axle tramp on full power launches. The Camaro RS SS3F50's standard traction bar helped reduce wheel hop, though later Camaros would adopt staggered shocks for a more complete cure. But excessive tire spin demanded a light touch at launch. The front disc brakes also required delicate footwork to avoid locking up. Stops from 60 mph took 156 feet for the Camaro, compared to the GT390's impressive 134 feet. So, initial braking advantage to Ford. It wasn't until May 1967 that all the ponies were finally gathered for a comprehensive test. This time, the Mustangs understeered the most, while the Camaros understeered the least. The V8 Chevys were also prone to throttle oversteer, which for a skilled driver could be a lot of fun. The Camaro felt the most agile in tight, twisty maneuvers. However, its 2-speed automatic transmission drew loud criticism. Inside, we dinged the Mustang for its unlighted ventilation controls that only the driver could reach. The Camaro, on the other hand, took heat for its lack of instrumentation and the low mounting location of its auxiliary gauges. In that particular head-to-head, no outright winner was declared, but if you read between the lines, the Camaro seemed to be the favorite. Car and Driver compared the Trans Am Racing homologation versions, the Camaro Z28 and the tunnel port, Mustang. The Z28 got the nod, outperforming the Mustang in acceleration, 13.8 versus 14.0 in the quarter mile, and braking, 1.02 versus 0.86 G. However, Road and Track chose a 289-powered Mustang over its 327-cube Camaro competitor, judging the soft-riding Camaro to be, frankly, a disappointment. So, it really depended on the trim, the setup, and the reviewer's preference. Now let's talk about these specific cars. Our photo cars were originally purchased by well-heeled boomers who wanted the best-dressed pony on the block. Each spent half again the base price on optional upgrades, and the result is 2 cars that look and feel truly special, inside and out. This Royal Plum Camaro, with its white vinyl top, boasts the 105 RS exterior decor package, adding those classy hidden headlamps and beautiful chrome flourishes that sparkle in the sun. Inside, it's extravagant. Air conditioning, power windows, a console with a gauge package, deluxe striped upholstery, and an odd fold-down rear seat back that surprisingly doesn't pass through to the trunk. And this stunning Clearwater Aqua. Mustang is similarly equipped with interior and exterior spiffs. Notice the turn signal indicators on the hood, the extra chrome, and those styled steel wheels. Inside, we have two-tone aqua vinyl upholstery, a console with a roll-top stowage compartment, and a fold-down rear seat that does provide access to the trunk. A nice touch for versatility. From behind the wheel, these two cars feel more different than their spec sheets might suggest. The fastback Mustang, in this beautiful Aqua, looks undeniably racier, and that view down its extra long hood really reinforces that impression. The big block 390 always feels like it's straining at the leash. Its 3-speed C6 automatic transmission is ready to make the most of the available torque, though the 3.0/0.1 axle ratio is definitely geared more for economical cruising than for jackrabbit starts. The overboosted power steering, typical of the era, transmits little road feel, but the heavy springs and shocks do an excellent job of controlling body motions. This GT traverses bumps and dips without losing its composure, feeling solid and planted on the road. Now this restored 57,000-mile Camaro feels tight and carefully assembled, despite the beating it takes from its period-correct Firestone wide O-oval bias ply tires, which offer little cushioning over rough roads. The venerable 350 small block exhales a sonorous burble through the SS350's dual deep-tone mufflers. It accelerates briskly at lower speeds, but that 2-cog power glide slush box is definitely a liability. Shifts are smooth on acceleration, but it clunks into low gear when slowing to a stop. Frankly, the 396 big block with a turbo hydromatic 3-speed would have been a much better match for the 390 Mustang. The steering and brakes feel even more overboosted than the Mustangs, but that's all part of the charm of a 1960s pony car. So who won the first round? It's tough to say definitively. Both cars had their strengths and weaknesses. The Mustang had the head start, the established popularity, and a slightly more refined big block experience. The Camaro brought a fresh, agile feel and incredible customization options to the table. Ultimately, both carved out their own legions of fans. Today, while rare option Z28s and Shelby GT3 500 variants are gaveling stratospheric prices at auction, more mainstream models like these are still surprisingly affordable. For $30,000 to $35,000, you can get a solid driver that's easy to maintain and repair, and loads of fun at cruise nights. Their experiences. The 1967 Ford Mustang GT390 and the Chevrolet Camaro RS SS 350. They were the opening salvo in a rivalry that continues to this day. They captivated a generation, and they continue to inspire awe. Which one is your favorite from this first battle? Let me know in the comments below. Pan over both cars. One last time with the music swelling. End screen with subscribe button, other videos. If you enjoyed this dive into muscle car history, hit that like button, subscribe for more classic car content, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you down the road.